Samarga Shiksha, an integrated scheme for school education. Framework for implementation to PAGA. Index. Abbreviations. 4. Preface. 7. Chapter 1. 9. Introduction. 9. Chapter 2. 22. Early Childhood Care and Education EK. 22. Chapter 3. 31. Nipan Bharat Mission for Foundational Literacy and Numeracy FLN. 31. Chapter 4. 39. Access and Retention. 39. Chapter 5. 69. Civil Works. 69. Chapter 6. 83. Quality and Innovation Interventions. 83. Chapter 7. 121. Financial Support for Salary of Language Teachers. 121. Chapter 8. 123. Gender and Equity. 123. Chapter 9. 142. Inclusive Education. 142. Chapter 10. 153. Strengthening of Teacher Education. 153. Chapter 11. 184. Vocational Education. 184. Chapter 12. 206. ICT and Digital Initiatives. 206. Chapter 13. 227. Community Mobilization. 227. Chapter 14. 231. Management, Monitoring, Media, Evaluation and Research MMMER. 231. 3. PAGA. Annexures. Annexure I. 262. Details of 86 paras of NEP 2020 integrated with Samagra Shiksha. 262. Annexure 2. 274. Programmatic and Financial Norms, Samagra Shiksha. 274. Annexure 3. 329. Output Outcome Monitoring Framework OOMF Samagra Shiksha. 329. Annexure IVA. 331. Output Outcomes Year-wise. 331 as mentioned in EFC document. 331. Annexure IVB. 333. Output Outcome Monitoring Framework for Samagra Shiksha 2022-23. 333. Annexure V. 343. Inclusive Education, letter dated the 10th of June 2022 regarding the same for compliance by all state and UT. 343. 4. PAGA. Abbreviations. BRC Block Resource Center. BRP Block Resource Person. CSSTE Centrally Sponsored Scheme of Teacher Education CRC Cluster Resource Center. CRP Cluster Resource Person. CTE College of Teacher Education CWSN Children with Special Needs Diet District Institute of Education and Training IASE Institute of Advanced Studies in Education. ICT Information and Communication Technology KRP की Resource Person Low Learning Outcome MHRD Ministry of Human Resource Development MIS Management Information System NAS National Achievement Survey NCERT National Council for Educational Research and Training NIEPA National Institute of Educational Planning and Administration NRG National Resource Group NRP National Resource Person. PAB Project Approval Board PGI Performance Grading Index PTR Pupil Teacher Ratio RMSA Rashtriya Madhyamik Shiksha Abhiyan RTE The Right of Children to Free and Compulsory Education Act 2009 SCERT State Council of Educational Research and Training Z State Institute of Education. SMC School Management Committee SMDC School Management and Development Committee SPO State Project Office SPD State Project Director SRG State Resource Group SRPL State Resource Person under Leadership Program of NIEPA 5 PAGA. ISSAE Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan Teacher Training Institution UDISE plus Unified District Information System for Education plus UT Union Territory CBSE Central Board of Secondary Education COTPA Cigarettes and Other Tobacco Products Prohibition of Advertisement and Regulation of Trade and Commerce Production, Supply and Distribution Act, 2003. COVID-19 Coronavirus Disease 2019. CPCR Commission for Protection of Child Rights Act, 2005 CPO Child Protection Officer. CPR Cardiopulmonary Resuscitation CPTD Child Parent Teacher Dialogue CRPC The Code of Criminal Procedure Act. ISSAE Child Sexual Abuse. CTE College of Teacher Education CWSN Children with Special Needs DC District Collector. DIU District Education Officer. Diet District Institute for Education and Training DM District Magistrate Drishti Disseminate, Roll Out, Intervene, Support, Handhold, Track and Incentivize IASE Institute of Advanced Studies in Education. ICPS, the Integrated Child Protection Scheme, ICSE, Indian School Certificate Examination. ICT, Information and Communication Technology, IPC, Indian Penal Code. IT, Information Technology, KVS, Kendriya Vidyalay Sangathan, MDM, Midday Meal Mo, Ministry of Education, NCERT, National Council of Educational Research and Training, NCPCR, National Commission for Protection of Child Rights, NDMA, National Disaster Management Authority, 6 PAGA. NEP, National Education Policy, NPC, National Policy for Children, NVS, Navodaya Vidyalaya Samiti, POCSO, the Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act and Rules. POSH, Prevention, Prohibition and Redressal Act. PTA, Parent Teachers Association. PTM, Parent Teachers Meeting, PSC, Preschool Centers. RTE, the Right of Children to Free and Compulsory Education Act, 2009, SCERT, State Council of Educational Research and Training, SCPCR, State Commission for Protection of Child Rights, SDG, Sustainable Development Goal, SJPU, Special Juvenile Police Unit, SM, School Management, SMC, School Management Committee, SOP, Standard Operating Procedure, SSC, School Safety Committee, SSA, State School Standards Authority, UNCRC, United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child, UNESCO, United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, USA, United States of America. UT, Union Territory, WAC, Violence Against Children, WHO, World Health Organization, WSA, Whole School Approach, 7 PAGA. Preface. Samagra Shiksha Scheme was launched in the year 2018 as an integrated scheme for school education catering from pre-primary to senior secondary classes. The launch of the scheme has reflected a paradigm shift in the approach as the entire gamut of the school education sector has been treated holistically without any segmentation of elementary and secondary as was in the case of erstwhile schemes of SSA and RMSA. The centrally sponsored scheme of Samagra Shiksha was aligned with 4 Sudanese pounds and recognized the importance of early childhood education and provided systemic intervention in harmony with existing infrastructure of Anganwadis. The scheme was also extended for senior secondary level to promote universal access at all levels. The formulation of National Education Policy 2020 (NEP 2020) has paved the way for developing all aspects and capabilities of learners and make education more well-rounded, useful, and fulfilling to the learner. The NEP 2020 envisions a transformation in the entire education system and envisages education as a continuum without any segmentation and focuses on making education more experiential, holistic, integrated, character-building, inquiry-driven, discovery-oriented, learner-centered, discussion-based, flexible, and above all, more joyful. It also focuses on bridging the gaps in attainment of learning outcomes through undertaking reforms that bring the highest quality, equity and integrity into the system, from early childhood care and education through higher education. Samagra Shiksha Scheme, being the core scheme for school education sector, has been aligned with NEP 2020 and extended from 2021-22 to 2025-26 to assist the state and UTs to achieve the above objectives of NEP 2020. The scheme has taken care of core principles of NEP 2020 that are access, equity, quality, affordability and accountability, and as many as 86 recommendations of NEP are included in Samagra Shiksha Annexa Act. Some of the important recommendations included are as follows. 86 paras of NEP have been integrated under the scheme, supporting 5+3+3+4 pedagogic structure, National Mission of Foundational Literacy and Numeracy, Nipan Bharat. Support for OOSC in age group of 16 to 19 years. Holistic Progress Card HPC activities of Parakh. Introduction of tracking of learning outcomes as well as transition of children, support for social audit. Separate stipend for CWSN girl child, enhanced provision for self-defense training of girls. Induction of qualified counselors at secondary and senior secondary level. Provision for identification of CWSN and resource center at block level. Language teachers, expansion of schooling facilities from pre-primary to senior secondary level including residential hostels, KGBVs etc. 8 PAGA. Samagra Shiksha in its new form reinforces the commitment to provide a safe, equitable, inclusive and stimulating learning environment with a wide range of learning experiences, good physical infrastructure and availability of appropriate resources conducive to learning to all children as envisaged by the National Education Policy 2020. Capacity building of teachers, 50 hours CPD. Provision for hub and spoke model in vocational education. Bagless days and internships, support for assessment cells in SCERT etc. Provision for smart classroom and support for Diksha 9 PAGA. Chapter 1 Introduction 1.1 Background 1.1.1 Education is the most important tool for social, economic and political transformation and a key instrument for building an equitable society. A well-educated population, equipped with the relevant knowledge, attitudes and skills is essential for economic and social development in the 21st century. Education also acts as an integrative force in society, imparting values that foster social cohesion and national identity. 1. Before 1976, education was the exclusive responsibility of the states. The constitutional amendment of 1976 included education in the concurrent list. While the role and responsibility of the states in education remained largely unchanged, the Union government accepted a larger responsibility of reinforcing the national and integrated character of education, maintaining quality and standards including those of the teaching profession at all levels, and the study and monitoring of the educational requirements of the country. 1.1.2 With the formulation of National Policy on Education (NPE) 1986, India initiated a wide range of programs for achieving the goal of universalization of elementary education (UEE). These efforts were intensified in the 1980s and 1990s through several schematic and program interventions, such as Operation Blackboard (OBB), Shiksha Karmi Project (SKP), Andhra Pradesh Primary Education Project (APPEP), Bihar Education Project (BEP), UP Basic Education Project (UP BEP), Mahila Samakhya (MS), Lok Jambish Project (LJP), District Primary Education Program (DPEP), and the Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan (SSI), the flagship centrally sponsored scheme in partnership for UEE across the country. This was further strengthened with the 86th Constitution Amendment Act in 2002, making elementary education a fundamental right followed by the passage of the Right of Children to Free and Compulsory Education (RTE) Act, 2009 which gave a legal mandate to provide free and compulsory elementary education to every child in the age group of 6 to 14 years. State MUTs were supported in the implementation of the RTE Act, 2009 through the centrally sponsored scheme of SSI. The scheme was aligned with the provisions of the Act with effect from September 2010. 1.1.3 A successful program of UEE is the precondition for taking the first reliable step towards universal secondary education. The NPE emphasized improving equitable access to secondary education and the enrollment of girls, SCs and STs, particularly in science, commerce and vocational streams. Para 5.13 of the NPE, 1986. The NPE and the Programme of Action (POA) 1992, while recognizing secondary education as a critical instrument for social change, called for its planned expansion. The NPE, as modified in 1992, specifically laid emphasis again on increasing access to secondary education with particular focus on participation of girls, SCs and STs. Increased autonomy of boards of secondary education to enhance their ability to improve quality. Introduction of ICT in school curriculum for coping with globalization. Renewed emphasis on work ethos and values of a humane and composite culture in the curricula. And vocationalization through specialized institutions or 1 India, Planning Commission, 12th Five-Year Plan 2012-2017 Volume 3, p. 4810 PAGA. Through the refashioning of secondary education to meet the manpower requirements of the growing Indian economy. Para 5.13 to 5.15. The Rashtriya Madhyamik Shiksha Abhiyan (RMSA), initiated in 2009, demonstrated the government's ambition for a secondary education system that can support India's growth and development. In the year 2013-14, 4 other centrally sponsored schemes for secondary education was ICT in schools, girls' hostel, vocationalization of secondary and senior secondary education and inclusive education for disabled at secondary stage (IEDSS) was subsumed under RMSA. This was done to provide for convergence-based implementation of different programs for secondary education with inclusion of aided schools for quality-related interventions and senior secondary segment for certain components. 1.1.4 The centrally sponsored scheme of restructuring and reorganization of teacher education (CSSTE) was initiated in 1987 pursuant to the formulation of the NPE, 1986. The NPE stated that improvement in the status and professional competence of teachers is the cornerstone of educational reconstruction and envisaged teacher education as a continuous process with pre-service and in-service training being its inseparable components. District Institute of Teacher Education (DIETs), Colleges of Teacher Education (CTEs), and Institutes of Advanced Studies in Education (IISEs) were thus established. The CSSTE scheme aimed to provide infrastructural and institutional support to government teacher education institutions (TEIs). 1.1.5 It is, therefore, evident that the centrally sponsored schemes of SSA, RMSA and TE were the three major school education development programs of the Ministry of Education, Government of India being implemented in partnership with state UTs. The common objectives of all the schemes were to enhance access through the expansion of quality school education, to promote equity through the inclusion of disadvantaged groups and weaker sections, and to improve the quality of education for all. While SSA covered the elementary level grades I-8 and was supporting implementation of the RTE Act, 2009, RMSA covered grades XX IX12 for certain components. CSSTE provided for teachers' education through an institutional setup for both pre-service and in-service training across classes. Further, with the role of SCERT as an academic authority US 29(1) of the RTE Act, the focus was on strengthening of SCERTs and diets. With the persistent efforts of the central and the state governments, these schemes have significantly addressed several major gaps in the school education system and have significantly contributed towards laying a strong foundation for an equitable quality school education system in the country. However, the major challenge is provision of quality education. The focus of the central government is now on improvement in quality of education. 1.2 Towards Samagra Shiksha, an integrated scheme for school education. 1.2.1 Overtime, parallel institutional arrangements at national, state, district and sub-district levels with little convergence with mainstream school education administration have been created for the planning and management of these schemes. This may have led to a duplication of efforts and personnel towards implementing similar interventions and achieving similar objectives. Independent evaluations of the schemes have suggested increased convergence and integration between the schemes through a single school education development program covering grades IX12. This would help in instilling allocative efficiency and optimal utilization of budgetary and human resources. Recognizing the potential 11 PAGA gains from convergence, an advisory dated the 16th of November 2017 on integrating the administrative structures at various levels created for SSA and RMSA in the states to achieve productive synergies, better coordination and economies of administrative costs was sent to all state and UTs. The creation of a single administrative structure would also assist in developing a school sector-wide strategy stressing on improvement in quality of education. 1.2.2 Given the shift in the approach to development of school education from input-based to outcome-based central sector interventions as envisaged in the document entitled, India, 3-Year Action Agenda, 2017-18 to 2019-20 NITI Aayog, 2017-2, a paradigm shift is envisaged in the approach to central sector spending on school education. The Union Budget, 2018-19, proposed to treat school education holistically without segmentation from preschool to class 12. An overarching program for the school education sector extending from preschool to class 12 was, therefore, prepared with the broader goal of improving school effectiveness measured in terms of equal opportunities for schooling and equitable learning outcomes. This sector-wide development program scheme would also help harmonize the implementation mechanisms and transaction costs at all levels, particularly in using state, district and sub-district level systems and resources, besides envisaging one comprehensive strategic plan for development of school education at the district level. The shift in the focus is from project objectives to improving systems level performance and schooling outcomes as the emphasis of the scheme along with incentivizing states towards improving quality of education. 1.2.3 The Samagra Shiksha, an integrated scheme on school education envisages the school as a continuum from preschool 3, primary, upper primary, secondary to senior secondary levels. The vision of the scheme is to ensure inclusive and equitable quality and holistic education from preschool to senior secondary stage in accordance with the Sustainable Development Goal (SDG) for Education 4 and the National Education Policy (NEP) 2020. The scheme was initially approved from 2018-19 to 2020-21 and has now been revised and extended up to 2025-26, with major changes aligning it to the vision of National Education Policy 2020 released on the 29th of July 2020. 1.2.4 Alignment with National Education Policy (NEP) 2020. 2 Available at web links. 3 Preschools referred to by all nomenclatures such as Balwadi, pre-nursery, nursery, preschool, preparatory, pre-primary, LKG, UKG, pre-nurseries, play centers, creches, Balvaticas etc. 4 Web links. The goal -4 Sudanese pounds and 10 piastres states that, by 2030, ensure that all boys and girls complete free, equitable and quality primary and secondary education leading to relevant and effective learning outcomes. Further, the 4 Sudanese pounds and 50 piastres states that, by 2030, eliminate gender disparities in education and ensure equal access to all levels of education and vocational training for the vulnerable, including persons with disabilities, indigenous peoples and children in vulnerable situations. 12 PAGA. The NEP 2020 is the first education policy of the 21st century, which aims to address the many growing developmental imperatives of our country and is aligned to the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. The NEP 2020 is built on the foundational pillars of access, equity, quality, affordability and accountability. This policy envisions an education system rooted in Indian ethos that contributes directly to transforming India, that is Bharat, sustainably into an equitable and vibrant knowledge society, by providing high-quality education to all, thereby making India a global knowledge superpower. 1.2.5 The major objectives of the scheme are: support state and UTs in implementing the recommendations of the National Education Policy 2020 NEP 2020, support states in implementation of Right of Children to Free and Compulsory Education RTE Act, 2009. Focus on early childhood care and education. Emphasis on foundational literacy and numeracy. Thrust on holistic, integrated, inclusive and activity-based curriculum and pedagogy to impart 21st century skills among the students. Provision of quality education and enhancing learning outcomes of students. Bridging social and gender gaps in school education. Ensuring equity and inclusion at all levels of school education. Strengthening and upgradation of state councils for educational research and training SCERTs, state institutes of education and district institutes for education and training DIET as a nodal agency for teacher training. Ensuring safe, secure and conducive learning environment and minimum standards in schooling provisions and promoting vocational education. The main outcomes of the scheme are envisaged as universal access, equity and quality including vocational education, inclusive education, and increased use of technology and strengthening of teacher education institutions TEIs. 13 PAGA. 1.2.6 Samagra Shiksha scheme is implemented as a centrally sponsored scheme by the department through single state implementation societies (SIS) at the state UT level. At the national level, there is a governing council GC headed by Minister of Education and a project approval board PAB headed by Secretary, Department of School Education and Literacy. The GC is empowered to modify financial and programmatic norms and approve the detailed guidelines for implementation within the overall framework of the scheme. Such modifications may include innovations and interventions to improve the quality of school education. The department is assisted by a technical support group TSG provided by Educational Consultants of India Limited EDSIL to provide technical support in functional areas pertaining to access, equity and quality education and for planning and monitoring of implementation of Samagra Shiksha. 1.2.7 The fund sharing pattern for the scheme between centre and states is at present in the ratio of 90:10 for the 8 northeastern states viz. Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Manipur, Meghalaya, Mizoram, Nagaland, Sikkim and Tripura, and 3 Himalayan states UTs viz. Jammu and Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand, and 60:40 for all other states and union territories with legislature except J&K. It is 100% centrally sponsored for union territories without legislature. This is in accordance with the recommendations of the subgroup of Chief Ministers on rationalization of centrally sponsored schemes received in October 20,155. Samagra Shiksha scheme has been envisaged as an additional support to the state and UTs to improve quality of education. However, education being in the concurrent list with majority of the schools under the domain of the state and UTs, the primary responsibility of providing accessible, affordable, equitable, inclusive and quality education lies with the state UT governments. Preference in the interventions would be given to educationally backward blocks EBS LWE affected districts, special focus districts SFDs, border areas and the 115 aspirational districts. The programmatic and financial norms under the scheme are detailed at Annexure 2. 1.2.8 The main emphasis of the scheme is on improving quality of school education by focusing on the 2 T's: teacher and technology. The strategy for all interventions under the scheme would be to enhance the learning outcomes at all levels of schooling. The scheme provides flexibility to the state and UTs to plan and prioritize their interventions within the scheme norms and the overall resource envelope available to them. 1.2.9 The scheme will help improve the transition rates across all levels of school education and aid in promoting universal access to children to complete school education. The integration of teacher education would facilitate effective convergence and linkages between different support structures in school education through interventions such as a unified training calendar, innovations in pedagogy, mentoring and monitoring, etc. This will enable SCERT's DIETS to become the nodal agency for conduct and monitoring of all in-service training programs to make it need-focused and dynamic. It would also enable reaping the benefits of technology and widening the access to good quality education across all state and 5 available at web links 14 PAGA. UTs and across all sections of the society. 1.3 RTE Roadmap under the integrated scheme. The Constitution 86th Amendment Act, 2002 inserted Article 21A in the Constitution of India to provide free and compulsory education to all children in the age group of 6 to 14 years as a fundamental right in such a manner as the state may, by law, determine. The RTE Act, 20,096, which represents the consequential legislation envisaged under Article 21A, has become effective on 1 April 2010. This act provides a justiciable legal framework that entitles all children between the age of 6 to 14 years free and compulsory admission, attendance and completion of elementary education. Most importantly, it provides for children's right to an education that is free from fear, stress and anxiety. Samagra Shiksha supports state and UTs in implementation of the RTE Act, 2009. 1.4 The scheme envisages providing an equitable and inclusive quality education which would be guided by the following principles. 7. A holistic Samagra view of education, as interpreted in the NEP 2020, with implications for systemic transformation of the entire content and process of education with significant implications for curriculum, teacher education, educational planning and management. Equity, to mean not only equal opportunity, but also creation of conditions in which the disadvantaged sections of the society, children of SC, ST, minorities, landless agricultural workers and children with special needs, etc., can avail the opportunity. Access, not to be confined to ensuring that a school becomes accessible to all children within specified distance but implies an understanding of the educational needs and predicament of the traditionally excluded categories, the SC, ST, minority, girls in general, children with special needs and other disadvantaged sections. Gender concerns, implying not only an effort to enable girls to keep pace with boys but to use education as a decisive intervention to bring about a basic change in the status of women. Centrality of teacher, to motivate them to innovate and create a culture in the classroom, and beyond the classroom, that might produce an inclusive environment for children, especially for girls from oppressed and marginalized backgrounds. Moral compulsion is imposed through the RTE Act on parents, teachers, and educational administrators and other stakeholders, rather than punitive processes. Convergent and integrated system of educational management, all states must move in that direction as speedily as feasible. The framework for implementation of the scheme provides a broad outline of approaches and implementation strategies, within which the state and UTs can frame detailed guidelines. 6 Web links 7 The guiding principles are based on the report for which in September 2009, the government had set up a committee under the chairpersonship of Shri Anil Boldia, former Union Education Secretary, to suggest follow-up action on SSI vis-a-vis the RTE Act. The committee submitted a report in April 2010, entitled Implementation of RTE Act and Resultant Revamp of SSI. 15 PAGA. Keeping in view the specific social, economic, institutional contexts and legal commitments under the RTE Act, 2009. 1.5 Major interventions and components. The major interventions across all levels of school education, supported under the scheme are SL. No. Major objectives. Samagra Shiksha provisions. 1. Access and retention. Access to infrastructure and resources or upgradation of schools at all levels based on gaps in access or strengthening of existing schools based on gaps identified through UDISE+. Or science lab, physics lab, chemistry lab, biology lab, arts craft rooms or additional classrooms, ACR or computer room, library room, essential classroom furniture or drinking water facility or separate toilets for boys, girls and CWSN or ramps with handrails or residential quarters for teachers or solar panel, electrification etc. enabling environment for retention, RTE entitlements, or provision of free uniforms and textbooks or residential schools, hostels, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose Avasiya Vidyalaya or transport, escort facilities or special training and mainstreaming of out-of-school children, OOSC or health checkup. 2. Capacity building, Nishtha integrated teacher training including teachers, school heads, teacher educators and coordinators at BRC, CRC and need-based trainings. Capacity building of educational administrators, training of SMC, SMDC, PTA. 3. Defining standards. Learning outcomes, NAS, FLN survey, PGI for states, UTs and districts, item banks for criterion referenced assessment. 4. Quality support at preschool level. Foundational literacy and numeracy, FLNN. Nipun Bharat teaching learning materials, TLMs, library books, sports equipment, quality interventions, learning enhancement, LEP, Rashtriya Avishkar Abhiyan, RA, Holistic Progress Card, HPC, Diksha 16, PAGA. SL. No. Major objectives, Samagra Siksha provisions. Equal access to quality digital content, ICT labs, smart classrooms and other digital initiatives, Vidya Samiksha Kendra, VSK, science labs, tinkering labs, etc. Topic circles, Fit India campaign, Ek Bharat Shrestha Bharat, EBSB, Youth Club and Eco Clubs in schools, Composite School Grant, state-specific innovations related to Bagless Days, internships, exposure to vocational education, learning enhancement, art integrated, sports integrated, toy-based pedagogies etc. 5. Strengthening of teacher education institutions TEIs. Establishment and support to SCERTs, diets, bites etc. Establishment of special cells including assessment cell, in-service training for teachers, head teachers and teacher educators, academic support through BRC, URC, CRC. 6. Bridging social and gender gaps, Kasturba Gandhi Balika Vidyalayas KGBVs, Rani Lakshmibai Atma Raksha Prashikshan, self-defense training, installation of sanitary pad vending machines and incinerators, etc. Life skill and adolescent education programs for emotional, mental and physical well-being of children. School health program and wellness ambassador. 7. Inclusion, braille and large print books for children with visual impairment, stipend for CWSN girls, aids and appliances, assistive devices, resource rooms etc. Identification camps for CWSN at block level, support for special educators and resource persons. Focus on aspirational districts, SFDs, EBs, border areas and LWE districts. 8. Vocational education. Vocational education at secondary and senior secondary level, provision of workshop, laboratory classroom and on-job trainings, tools and equipment. 9. Community mobilization. Community participation and monitoring for universal access, equity and quality, workshops, lectures, programs for creating awareness on RTE Act, learning outcomes etc. 10. Data capturing, UDISE+. PRABANDH. 11. Monitoring, regular meetings with education secretaries, SPDs. Visits to state and UTs 17. PAGA. SL. No. Major objectives, Samagra Siksha provisions. National Workshop Review Meeting on Physical and Financial Progress Monitoring through PRABANDH System, Review of UTs by Honorable Home Minister with LT. Governors and Administrators, Social Audit, UDISE+, Data Bank of Education Indicators, linkages with School GIS Portal, monitoring through Public Financial Management System, PFMS. To summarize, the major interventions are I. Early childhood care and education, E. Foundational literacy and numeracy, E. Universal access including infrastructure development and retention. IV. RTE entitlements including uniforms, textbooks etc. We. Quality and innovation, We. Financial support for teacher salary, We. Appointment of language teachers, We. Gender and equity, X. Inclusive education, X. Strengthening of teacher education institutions and training, She. Vocational education, XI. ICT and digital initiatives, XI. Sports and physical education, TIF. Monitoring and program management and X. We. National component. 18. PAGA. In order to help the states and UTs in implementing Samagra Siksha, various guidelines have been developed. Details are given below. SL. No. Guidelines, links of website. 1. SARTHAQ, Students and Teachers Holistic Advancement Through Quality Education. Part 1, Web links files upload_document SARTHAQ_part1_ updated. PDF. Part 2, Web links _part_2. PDF. 2. PRAGYATA Guideline on Digital Education. Pragyata Guidelines _0. PDF Education. Gov. In. 3. Learning Enhancement Guidelines for Continuous Learning. Pragyata Guidelines _0. PDF Education. Gov. In. 4. Alternative Academic Calendar from Primary to Senior Secondary Level. Web links. 5. Guidelines for Continuing Education of Children of Migrant Laborers. Web links _guideline. PDF. 6. SOP Guidelines for Reopening of Schools. Web links files modifications _SOP. PDF. 7. Guidelines for School Reopening on Learning with Social Distancing. Web links files SOP _guidelines for reopening schools. PDF. 8. Continuous Learning Plan CLP. Web links enhancement _guidelines. PDF. 9. NCTE Guidelines for TEI's web links. Ment 0_20_8_2020_635,335,372,297,662. PDF. 10. Guidelines for Identification and Bringing Back Out of School Children and Addressing Concerns on School Reopening. Web links files Guidelines _OOSC. PDF. 11. COVID Response in School Education, Action Plan for Access, Retention, Continuous Learning, Capacity Building and Stakeholder Engagement. Web links files COVID_action_plan. PDF. 12. Guideline for Parent Participation in Home-Based Learning During School Closure and Beyond. Web links files mo_home_learning_guidelines. PDF. 13. National Initiative for Proficiency in Reading with Understanding and Numeracy Nipan Bharat. Web links files Nipan_Bharat_Eng1. PDF. 14. Guidelines for Children of Migrant Laborers, Focuses. Web links files Migrant %20 Labor %20 Guideline. PDF 19 PAGA. On providing admission to the in-migrant children in the nearby government schools without the requirement of submitting any document except an identity card. 15. School Bag Policy Web links. Files school_bag_policy_2020. PDF. 16. Vidya Pravesh, a 3-month play-based, school preparation module, developed by NCERT for all students entering Grade 1 students that will bring the concept of play schools to villages too. Web links. 17. Initiatives for Indian Sign Language. For the first time, Indian Sign Language has been introduced as a language subject at secondary level. Also, over 1200 A= contents have been developed in sign language by NIOS and NCERT. Web links. 18. SAFL Structured Assessment for Analyzing Learning Levels. Competency-based assessment to be introduced in CBSE schools for grades 3, 5 and 8 with focus on testing core concepts, application-based questions and higher-order thinking skills. Web links AL_handbook. PDF. 19. Artificial Intelligence for All, a 4-hour self-learning journey to help demystify and create a basic understanding of AI for everyone, launched by CBSE, Ministry of Education, and Intel India. Web links 2156_circular_2021. PDF. 20. NDEAR National Digital Education Architecture, a unifying national digital infrastructure to energize and catalyze the education ecosystem that will be open, interoperable, evolvable and public. Web links. 21. Samagra Siksha approval given for continuation till March 2026 with a total financial outlay of. Web links 20 PAGA. Rs. 294,283.04 crore, which includes central share of Rs. 185,398.32 crore. Has been aligned to NEP 2020 recommendations. 22. Performance Grading Index 2019-20 for grading of states and UTs. Web links. 23. Performance Grading Index Districts 2018-19 and 2019-20. Web links. 24. Ek Bharat Shrestha Bharat, revised guidelines aligned to NEP 2020 have been issued. Web links UADlines_updated. PDF. 25. Participation by schools in Toycathon Hackathon. Developing a culture of innovation and active imbibing of 21st century skills. Web links. 26. Guidelines for Art Integrated Education issued by CBSE. Web links 2033_circular_2020. PDF. 27. Promoting storytelling, teaching and learning through graphic novels. Web links. 28. Revised guidelines for library grant and promotion of reading. Web links in S_for_promotion_library_reading %20. PDF. 29. Guidelines for development of content for CWSN have been issued, so they can have anytime, anywhere access to learning resources. Web links 06 Content_Guidelines. PDF. 30. Continuous Professional Development CPD. Launch of various courses for teachers on IT and ET, hazard management, knowledge of India, COVID safety protocols etc. Web links. 31. Introduction of experiential learning pedagogy. Web links. 32. Diksha, One Nation One Digital Platform for School Education. Web links. 33. Learning outcomes based item bank have been created and uploaded on Diksha platform. Web links. 34. Content made available in 32 Indian languages on Diksha. Web links. 35. PM Avidya for ensuring equitable education through multiple modes. Web links 21 PAGA. 36. Swayam Prabha TV channels, 1 class, 1 TV channel for grades 1 to 12. Web links. 37. Siksha Vani, extensive use of radio, community radio, CBSE podcast, Siksha Vani, TV with coherence. Web links 1918_circular_2019. PDF. 38. Exposure of vocational education at upper primary level, more than 6,000 schools approved in 2021-22. Web links. 39. Guidelines on school safety and security. Web links 10 Guidelines_SSS. PDF. 40. Guidelines on reading campaign. Web links files Guidelines_on_reading_campaign. PDF. 41. National Achievement Survey 2021 Report Card. Web links. 42. Low Performing District Primer. Web links on. PDF. 43. NCF Mandate Document. Web links 44. Guidelines for Social Audit of Samagra Siksha. Web links files Guidelines_for_social_audit_of_Samagra_Shiksha_scheme. PDF 22 PAGA. Chapter 2. Early Childhood Care and Education ECE. 2.1 Major Goals. Every child of appropriate age has access to preschool, is enrolled and attending. Every child achieves optimum health and fitness parameters. All teachers are qualified to deliver quality ECE as per National Curriculum Framework NCF, State Curriculum Framework SCF. Every child acquires all cognitive, transversal, affective, psychomotor skills required for being school grade 1 ready. Every preschool has an inclusive teaching and learning environment. 2.2 Background. Investing in early childhood development is one of the best investments a country can make to boost economic growth, promote peaceful and sustainable societies and eliminate extreme poverty and inequality. Equally important, investing in early childhood development is necessary to uphold the right of every child to survive and thrive. Early years of development of a young child is a period of rapid brain development, as 80 to 90% of the brain develops by the time the child is 6 years old. Brain research has shown that these early years are also the most critical or sensitive period for laying the foundations for language development, higher cognitive functions and sensory pathways. Nurturing care including health and nutrition, responsive caregiving, safety, security and early learning, are necessary for a child to grow physically, mentally and socially. Investing in programs focusing on young children results in gains in development of human capital. James Heckman, Nobel laureate in economics, presents this through his famous equation suggesting that investment in early childhood education for disadvantaged children, developing cognitive skills, social abilities and healthy behaviors, sustained through early development with effective education through to adulthood, leads to a more capable and productive workforce. Provisioning of high-quality early childhood services targeted at children from disadvantaged families can be a powerful equalizer, promoting social justice and equity. At present, there are 3.02 crore children in the age group 3 to 6 years who are beneficiaries of preschool education in Anganwadi centers under Anganwadi services. 8. Source: Annual Report 2020-2021, Ministry of Women and Child Development. 8. Source: Based on report of the Expert Committee on Population Projection, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, Government of India, July 2023 PAGA. Total projected population of India age group 3 to 5. Year male female total India 2021442723333968866783961000. 2.2 The Indian context, policy and programs in India. The young child has always been part of government's policies and programs since independence. However, the approach and perspective have evolved over the years and shifted from welfare to development to now being seen through a rights-based lens. 9. For the first time in 1975, through the Integrated Child Development Services Scheme (ICDS), Government of India acknowledged the need to invest in young children below the age of 6 years, by providing a comprehensive integrated service package including health checkups, referral services, immunization, supplementary nutrition, preschool education and nutrition and health education, for pregnant and lactating mothers and children up to the age of 6 years. With the 86th Amendment to the Constitution, in 2010, Article 45 was amended, thereby ensuring that the state shall endeavour to provide early childhood care and education for all children until they complete the age of 6 years. With the inclusion of early childhood care and education in the Directive Principles of State Policy (DPSP), provisioning for EK became the duty of the state, however this could not be enforced by judiciary. Section 11 of the RTE Act, 2009 states that, with a view to prepare children above the age of 3 years for elementary education and to provide early childhood care and education for all children until they complete the age of 6 years, the appropriate government may make necessary arrangements for preschool education for such children. The Samagra Shiksha scheme acknowledges, school is a continuum from preschool, primary, upper primary, secondary to senior secondary levels. Since Ministry of Women and Child Development is running a comprehensive program for children under 6 years of age, efforts will be made to strengthen the area of preschool education through greater convergence with ICDS program of the Ministry of Women and Child Development. The National Education Policy 2020 has some significant recommendations for preschool education Paras 1.1 to 1.9, which when adopted will have far-reaching implications for preschool education in India. The key recommendations of the policy include the following. The policy recommends preschool education and early grades of primary school classes 1 and 2, i.e. 5 years period from age of 3 to 8 years, to be considered as a continuum of learning for the young child and to be the foundational stage of schooling. To include preschool education for children from age 3 years to 6 years, through 4 alternative models, i.e. Anganwadi centers, AWCs, pre-primary sections in schools, collocating AWC in schools and standalone preschools. All AWCs to be linked to the nearest government primary school, as part of a school complex and to be strengthened. 9. Sharma, A. Sen, R. S. and Gulati, R. 2008. Early Childhood Development Policy and Programming in India, International Journal of Early Childhood Policy Change, 42, 65-84. 24 PAGA. It is envisaged that every child before attaining the age of 5 years will move to a preparatory class, a Balvatika, that is before class 1, which has a qualified preschool teacher. NCERT to have an expanded mandate to develop national curricular and pedagogical framework for early childhood care and education. NCPFECCE a 6-month, 1-year special training program for Anganwadi workers to be undertaken. Joint task force including MWCD, MO, Motor and MHFW to be set up to work out details. Universal provisioning of quality early childhood development, care, and education must be achieved as soon as possible, and no later than 2030, to ensure that all students entering grade 1 are school ready. On completion of education prior to the age of 5 in Anganwadis preschools, every child shall move to a preparatory class, leading to improved student learning outcomes and reduced dropouts. Anganwadi systems will be strengthened, ensuring holistic development of a child's social, emotional, cognitive and physical needs. 2.3 Major tasks, development of National Curriculum Framework (NCF) for EK. Integrating EK data with UDISE Plus for data collection and assessment. Co-location of Anganwadi centers with primary schools as per feasibility. Strengthening of infrastructure facilities in primary schools pre-primary sections. Rollout of EK in a phased manner starting with introductory preparatory class Balvatika in Anganwadis and primary schools. Extending PM Poshan to pre-primary classes in government primary schools for nutritious food and health for children. Training of EK teachers and Anganwadi workers. Creation of a joint task force including Ministry of Tribal Affairs, WCD, Health etc. 2.4 Guidelines for establishment of preschool sections in primary schools and collocation of Anganwadis, preschool campus. The physical environment of the preschool campus should be such that children feel safe, secure, comfortable and at ease and can enjoy exploring and learning. The teachers and helpers and other support staff should be well trained to supervise and look after the young children. There must be adequate staff to maintain hygiene, sanitation, ensures safety, security of children in the school. Sanitary facilities. The preschool will be equipped with basic sanitation facilities such as healthy, safe and nutritious meals, safe drinking water facility, and cleanliness in and around the school. A. Separate toilets for boys and girls, suitable for small children and for children with special needs. B. Toilets should be safe and have regular water supply. C. Soap, hand wash and clean towels should be made available. D. Bathroom fixtures and sinks may be provided at the level children can reach easily. A. Garbage bin with a lid should be provided in each class and in outdoor area. Safety precautions indoor and outdoor, keeping in view that the young children have recently learned some motor skills like running. Some additional safety precautions will have to be observed. 25 PAGA. A. The classroom should have adequate space for movement. The play space should ensure safety of children, i.e. prevent children from running out and getting hurt from grievous injury. B. The furniture and toys need to be child-friendly and free from any sharp edges. C. Doors should be light in weight and should not be of self-locking or swinging type. D. There should be mesh in all the windows to prevent mosquitoes coming in. A. No toxic paint should be used for play material equipment. The equipment should not have any sharp corners, jutting nails etc. and should be sturdy. F. Play material should not have any loose parts which children may swallow by mistake. G. Maintenance of outdoor equipment should be regularly attended to, in order to protect children from injury. H. Electric outlets which are accessible to the children must have protective caps when not in use. I. Any arrangement made by the school for transporting children should be safe, comfortable and convenient. J. Items of potential danger or cleaners like flammable liquids, toxic material, soaps and detergent etc. must be kept in original container with original label. These should be stored in an area not in use by the children and is away from the kitchen. K. During cleaning, daily inspection of indoor and outdoor area must be done to search for sharp objects, needle, pins and branches, poisonous foliage and mushrooms, bee or wasp nest and depth of area under swings. L. In a preschool, it is essential to provide some time for rest nap during the day's program. A clean mattress with sheet along with a comfortable pillow may be provided for this purpose. M. Every center must have clearly written procedure to be followed in the event of emergency. Further emergency numbers, ambulance, fire safety, police, doctor should be kept handy. Child-friendly infrastructure. To ensure access to child-friendly infrastructure, requirement of additional classrooms, ACR, toilets, drinking water facility etc. may be provided under the strengthening component for pre-primary classes in primary schools. Facilities for children with special needs in early years. For providing support to the learning of children with disabilities, focuses on early identification and support during early years. States, UTs will build specific capacities of teachers at foundational levels. Under Samagra Shiksha, provision of stipend for CWSN girls at Rs. 200 per month for 10 months, has been extended to pre-primary level. Child abuse and rights. Special care will have to be taken that there is no child abuse. A. No physical, verbal or emotional abuse. B. No harsh discipline and no corporal punishment. C. Children should not be neglected. D. All boys and girls to be treated equally. A. All teachers must be trained to identify, understand and respond appropriately in case they observe any signs of child abuse, neglect. F. Teachers should be trained in promoting tolerance and unity and respect for diversity in line with the quality standards. 26 PAGA. G. All teachers to be trained in accommodating CWSN children with compassion. Location of preschool. Preschool being co-located on the campus of primary school should be easily accessible to the children. Transportation facilities available in the area may also be utilized in case the distance is more than 1 km. Following are the points for the location of the school: away from heavy traffic, ponds, well, ditches, nalas, pollution, heaps of garbage, cattle shed, animal shelter, slush, stagnant water and uncovered drains. The building must be surrounded with boundary wall or fence to mark the safe area. The preschool sections may be located on the ground floor. There may be a direct approach road for easy transport and delivery of supplies. The preschool should be in the same premises as the primary school. Escort facility should be ensured for vulnerable children. Co-location, state and UTs have been requested to examine the possibility of co-locating Anganwadi centers AWCs in the campus of the nearby primary schools with a view to improve child preparedness for going to school and to ensure smooth transition from preschool to formal schooling. Nationally, 24% of government primary schools have a co-located Anganwadi center, UDISE plus 2019-20. It is important to emphasize that co-location of Anganwadis run under ICDS program should lead to greater convergence with the school. The school and the Anganwadi should work as part of each other so that co-location of Anganwadis in schools does not only remain physical co-location. The principal of the primary school should look after and help to develop the educational component of the Anganwadi center. SK should ensure that the teachers of primary school and the Anganwadi workers work in a collaborative manner. District Education Officers DO and Child Development Project Officers CDPO will organize joint meetings of the principals, headmaster and Anganwadi workers, supervisors and work out strategies to bring about convergence at the local level. 2.5 Major tasks at national level. The Joint Task Force with representation of various ministries has been constituted by the MO for smooth integration of early childhood education with the school education system. The data capture format DCF is being developed for integrating AK in UDISE Plus portal. The guidelines for implementing Nipun Bharat were released by MO containing goals, competencies and learning outcomes for 3 to 9 years old children. MO has developed a 3-month school preparatory module known as Vidya Pravesh under Nipun Bharat mission for children entering in class 1. The same is recommended for adaptation to be introduced at Balvatika level also to prepare children for school. 2.6 Comprehensive description about interventions. 2.6.1 Programmatic interventions. At preschool level, support for training of master trainers for training of Anganwadi workers for preschool education in line with the NCERT framework, co-location of 27 PAGA. Anganwadis in primary schools can be provided. National Curricular and Pedagogical Framework for Early Childhood Care and Education NCPFECCE for children up to the age of 8 which will be developed by NCERT NEP Para 1.3 aligned to National Education Policy, 2020. State and UTs to develop teaching learning materials in AK based on rich local traditions involving art, stories, poetry, games, songs, toys and more. NEP Para 1.3 in-service teacher training would include training for AK teachers as per existing norms on art integrated, sport integrated, storytelling, experiential and toy-based pedagogies. Admissibility for government schools. 2.6.2 Financial norms, recurring grant, including manpower deployment and other teaching learning aids materials of up to Rs. 2 lakh per school per annum for pre-primary sections in government primary schools. Provision of up to Rs. 500 per child for teaching learning materials, indigenous toys and games, play-based activities per annum for pre-primary sections in government primary schools. Non-recurring grant of up to Rs. 1 lakh per school for Bala features, child-friendly furniture, outdoor play materials etc. For pre-primary sections in government schools and co-located Anganwadis once in 5 years. 2.6.3 Following are the suggestive activities that state and UTs can propose under recurring support for the model of pre-primary section with primary school. Tracking and monitoring of developmental process of children. Development revision of AK curriculum. Development of learning corners. The classrooms should be equipped with the following so that children get opportunities to engage in free play and the teacher is able to handle multiple age groups by providing age-appropriate activities while ensuring safety of children. A variety of age-appropriate information books, picture books, story books, big books, local folktales, posters, thematic books and comics. B. Various kinds of props, dolls, doll-sized furniture and clothes, doll-sized cooking utensils, pots, dishes, spoons etc. Pretend food, vegetables or fruits made of clay, dress-up clothes, scarf, cap, stole, jacket, small sari, long pieces of cloth etc. Combs and a mirror. Local dolls may be encouraged which do not reinforce any gender stereotypes. C. Materials like ramps and wheels, magnifying glass, shells, plants, seeds, weighing scales and weights, measuring tapes or any other locally available materials. D. Blocks of different colors, shapes and sizes. puzzles, matching cards, lacing strings, lacing cards, threading strings and beads, small toys such as cars, trucks, animals, people figures, and other objects from the environment. A. Different types of papers, crayons, pencils, washable markers, slates, different colored chalks, pieces of fabric, paints, brushes, tape, Play-Doh clay, rolling pins and boards, old newspaper and magazines for collage and ice cream sticks. F. Musical instruments like adhapali, bell, bowls, flutes, tambourines, string instruments, other local musical instruments, playing equipment, tape recorder and 28 PAGA. A variety of DVDs of songs and rhymes. It may have material such as ribbons or scarves for the children to use to promote creative movement. G. Sports and play material, such as hula hoops, balls, rings, ropes, etc. Training and capacity building of master trainers. To train master trainers, state and UTs may select SCERT diet faculty and from BRC CRC teachers. State and UTs may create AKSRGs also. Activities related to parental engagement and community participation. 2.6.4 Following are the activities that state and UTs can propose under non-recurring support for the model of pre-primary section with primary school and for functional co-located Anganwadi centers. Child-friendly furniture, outdoor play materials, valor features. 2.6.5 Following are the activities that state and UTs can propose under recurring support for the model of functional co-location of Anganwadi center. Development revision of AK curriculum. Training and capacity building of master trainers for training of Anganwadi workers. To monitor the AK component, the key performance indicators is attached at appendix. 2.7 Monitoring mechanism of KPIs. Intervention monitoring at national, state, district, BRC, CRC level wherever applicable. States, UTs will prepare detailed guidelines for the roles, responsibilities, selection criteria, functioning and reporting by CRC, BRC based on the requirements of the AK recommendation given under National Education Policy, 2020. 2.8 Expected outcomes. Access to high-quality preschool education to the children in the age group 3 to 6. The parents and community get greater awareness on developmentally appropriate practices in preschool education. Holistic development of children. Smooth transition of children from preschool to grade 1 and all children entering grade 1 are school-ready. Trained teachers or personnel to impart AK activities. 2.9 Action points for state and UTs. Before starting the pre-primary classes in primary schools, state and UT may conduct rationalization exercise for the optimum utilization of the existing resources and infrastructure. In convergence with state WCD department, state and UTs may also set up AK Joint 29 PAGA task force to implement the AK activities in schools. Wherever there are gaps in providing for AK for 0 to 6 years olds, states may consider including co-locating 2 or 3 years of preschool education in primary elementary school and implementing a developmentally appropriate curriculum and focus on school readiness for children. The AK teachers will need to be specially trained in child development, early childhood development for the preschool classes, for which the states will need to make provision for training and capacity building, etc. SCERTs to prepare SCF for AK based on principles of NEP 2020 and NCF-ECCE prepared by NCERT. The SCF will also detail the use of locally produced indigenous toys and indigenous games, puppetry, art, stories, poetry, songs, etc. for AK and also specific mechanisms for bridging the gap between language spoken by child and language used in class AWC. The curriculum must have a linkage to the curriculum for classes in primary level of schooling and to the NIP and Bharat Development Goals and Lakshyas. State and UTs will develop locally contextualized teaching learning materials for AK with the help of SCERTs and diets. Material may also be developed in languages dialects spoken in the region, aside from the local regional languages. States, UTs to prepare guidelines for integration, co-locating, partnering, twinning or linking of Anganwadis with school complexes clusters. Community sensitization, parental advocacy and leveraging parents as a resource on AK will be taken up for AK implementation by states, UTs. 2.10 Convergence with MOPT based on the NEP 2020 recommendations, school education emphasizes convergence with the ICDS program of Ministry of Women and Child Development to promote preschool education. The department would strive to maintain effective synergy with the ICDS through the following. Instructions to be issued by state education departments in concurrence with WCD department. Regular inter-departmental meetings to be held at the state, district and block level between school education officials and the ICDS program, and coming out with action points to bring about convergence at the ground. Making the principal, headmaster of primary school responsible for facilitating the education component of Anganwadis. Representative of ICDS program will be on the state level Executive Committee of School Education and District Implementation Committee. Location of Anganwadi centers in or close proximity to primary school campus and synchronization of the timings of the Anganwadi centers with the primary schools. In case of Anganwadi center not co-located physically, then partnering, linking, twinning of Anganwadi centers to the nearest primary school to ensure cognitive inputs to be given to the children enrolled in the Anganwadi centers and their smooth transition to grade 1. Designating one of the existing primary school teachers as in charge of preschool to 30 PAGA. Plan convergence with the co-located, partnered, twinned, linked Anganwadi center. Joint efforts for curriculum renewal of preschool teacher training and conduct of trainings of Anganwadi workers and AK teachers for a convergent understanding of links between learning and development in preschool and primary school. Use of infrastructure of diets, BRCs and CRCs for training of master trainers of Anganwadi workers and other functionaries of ICDS. Strengthening of training of Anganwadi workers in preschool activities in both existing and new projects Anganwadi centers. Training primary school teachers in the pedagogy of early childhood education. 31 PAGA. Chapter 3. Nipun Bharat Mission for Foundational Literacy. In Numeracy FLN. 3.1 Major Goals. All children in the age group of 6 to 9 years have access to foundational schooling and achieve foundational skills by grade 3. High quality and diversified student and teacher resources, learning materials are made available for a joyful learning environment. School readiness module is implemented in local language in class 1 in all schools. Teachers of grades I to week new are trained in order to ensure the requisite capacity to deliver high quality instruction for foundational years. Development of a robust technology-enabled monitoring mechanism to track the progress of each child in achieving learning outcomes. 3.2 Background NEP Paris 2.1 to 2.9 According to UNESCO, Early Childhood Care and Education ECE, which addresses the period from birth to 8 years old, is important because it capitalizes on a period of rich brain development for children and, when it is of good quality, can help them achieve their full potential. It can lay the foundation for good health and nutrition, learning and educational success, social-emotional learning, and economic productivity throughout life. The cognitive inputs that require to be imbibed during this period are the foundational skills of literacy and numeracy. The National Education Policy 2020 highlights that India could lose 5 crore or more students from the learning system to illiteracy if foundational literacy and numeracy is not achieved, and goes on to state that the universal acquisition of foundational literacy and numeracy for all children must receive urgent national attention. Further, students, along with their schools, teachers, parents, and communities, must be urgently supported and encouraged in every way possible to help carry out this all-important target and mission, which indeed forms the basis of all future learning. Towards this end, a national mission on foundational literacy and numeracy called National Initiative for Proficiency in Reading with Understanding and Numeracy Nipun Bharat has been launched on the 5th of July 2021 under the aegis of Samagra Shiksha to ensure that every child achieves the desired learning competencies in reading, writing and numeracy at the end of grade 3 and not later than grade 5. The vision of Nipun Bharat mission is to create an enabling environment to ensure universal acquisition of foundational literacy and numeracy, so that every child achieves the desired learning competencies in reading, writing and numeracy by the end of grade 3, by 2026-27. A comprehensive guideline of Nipun Bharat has been developed, which in addition to strategic, technical and administrative aspects of foundational literacy and numeracy 32 PAGA, including codification of learning outcomes for each grade under 3 development goals, lays down priorities and actionable agendas for state and UTs to achieve the goal of proficiency in foundational literacy and numeracy for every child by grade 3. This detailed guideline can be accessed at web links. 3.3 Interventions for Foundational Literacy and Numeracy Mission. The following interventions have been introduced under the Foundational Literacy and Numeracy Mission component of Samagra Shiksha. Defining of learning goals and lakshyas. In order to generate awareness and ensure community and parental engagement, learning goals and lakshyas have been developed under Nipun Bharat mission from Balvatika to grade 3. These Lakshyas are mostly based on the learning outcomes developed by the NCERT and International Research and of Studies. NCERT will undertake foundational learning study for Indian languages, and based on the findings of the study, these Lakshyas would be updated. The Lakshyas start from Balvatika, as before it would be difficult to assess the young children. The learning outcomes though are starting from age 3 onwards. The detailed Lakshya targets for foundational literacy and numeracy is at Annexa. 5-year perspective planning, Nipun Bharat Mission is expected to achieve its target of universal acquisition of foundational skills by all children at the end of grade 3. Therefore, it is of utmost importance to make a plan for next 5 years, which can be broken into annual plans and targets. In this regard, a planning template has already been shared with the state and UTs, and the same has further been revised based on feedback from the states, UTs, and is being digitized. The Nipun Bharat portal, which will be launched soon, will have all the details of the documents and information on Nipun Bharat Mission at one place. Teaching learning materials for implementation of innovative pedagogies. Aside from core learning material, state and UTs will be encouraged to develop highly engaging, joyful, and innovative additional learning resources in regional, local, home language. Provision of up to Rs. 500 per child per annum up to primary level as per state-specific action plan is provided, including TLM required for a 3-month school preparation module SPM. School readiness module in Class 1, a 3-month play-based school preparation module for all grade 1 students called Vidya Pravesh has been developed by NCERT to ensure that all children are school ready till universal provisioning of quality preschool education is achieved. This module can be adapted or adopted by state and UTs as per their need. A content including competency-based items on Diksha. Under Diksha, a separate vertical for FLN resources has been developed to assist and mentor states, UTs and teachers for implementing Nipun Bharat guidelines. This vertical has infographics and videos on learning outcomes and assessment tools for teachers to facilitate them. Teacher Resource Material Activity Handbook. Teacher manuals, activity handbooks, resource materials could be prepared for teachers by the NCERT SCERT diets to align their innovative pedagogies with learning outcomes and grade level competencies, for which a provision at Rs. 150 per teacher at primary level has been made. Capacity building of teachers of grades I to V, regular professional development focusing on preschool education and foundational literacy and numeracy will be the 33 PAGA. Focus. For 2021-22, a customized FLN package for teachers teaching at foundational stage of education called Nishtha 3.0 has been designed and launched, covering the continuum from preschool to the primary grades to meet the specific content and pedagogical requirements. States, UTs will identify a pool of mentors to render academic support offline, online, blended to teachers who will be delivering the FLN mission objectives. SCERTs may also run specialized courses such as preparation of locally contextualized TLM, local toy making, arts and sports integrated pedagogies etc. to augment the capacities of teachers. The financial norms will be same as per existing in-service teacher training norms. Classroom design and practices. All children will have access to an equitable and inclusive classroom environment which takes care of their diverse background, multilingual needs and different academic abilities, and makes them active participants in learning process as envisaged in the NEP 2020. To achieve the FLN goals, classroom practices and transactions shall include creation of TLM in all languages, including mother tongue home languages by states, UTs. Toys, games, sports, puzzles, quizzes, worksheets, workbooks, and storybooks etc. to be used extensively for teaching through play, discovery, game, art, activity-based pedagogy. School public libraries, digital libraries, toy libraries will be made integral part of teaching learning process and will be made available after school hours also to the students. Classroom spaces to be used for having meaningful reading and learning materials for children. Preparation of stage-wise and subject-wise learning matrix of simple measurable learning outcomes which can be used by teachers to benchmark levels of achievement by each child. Mapping of learning outcomes to the curriculum. All defined learning outcomes goals that are to be achieved by the class in all subjects should be exhibited in the class through simple charts, posters. Charts on loss to be displayed in common spaces in school for parents so that they can read and understand. Inclusion is the key to imparting several life skills. It shall be the responsibility of the teacher to ensure it. Teaching and learning should be such that it is linked to the daily life situations of the children and their environment, area, culture, language, ethnicity, gender, etc. For example, children should be encouraged to read the written word, wherever it is available, school name board, bus stand name and number, advertisements, hoardings, wall slogans, writings on packaged goods, newspapers, TV programs, etc. Teaching and learning should not only focus on the child acquiring knowledge, but also on the child acquiring life skills, learning skills, values, etc. Customized learning content for FLN mathematics and reading literacy to be created for students with learning disabilities. 34. PAGA. Group learning, collaborative work and seating arrangement to be encouraged. Independent, periodic and holistic assessment of students, assessment of progress and achievements by students, schools and states UTs in FLNN will be done through School-Based Assessment SBA and State Assessment Survey Third-Party Assessment National Achievement Survey. Further, assessment of children on all the essential aspects of their growth and development needs to be compiled in the form of Holistic Progress Card HPC. The following are some of the attributes of HPC. O provides disaggregated reporting, unlike a single score or letter grade in a subject area. O reports many unique competencies which are not just academic. O multiple learning outcomes are defined to indicate progress of the student in literacy, numeracy and in other areas such as psychomotor skills, environmental awareness, personal hygiene, etc. So as to enable identification of areas of strength and areas of improvement. O painting, drawing, clay work, toy making, projects and inquiry-based learning, student portfolios, quizzes, group work, role plays, etc. can be used to assess student progress. O informed conversations are held with the teacher, student, and parents for reporting. O parent, peers, teacher and self-assessment can be used to report 360-degree progress. Provision of hours. 10 to 20 lakh per district depending upon the size of the districts and states for conducting formative and periodic assessment of the learning outcomes of Class 1 and 2 and desired competencies grade and subject-wise, has been made under the scheme. State Level Achievement Survey SLAS State Achievement Surveys will be held in alternate years with the National Achievement Surveys NAS in 2021, 2024 and 2027. 2022 and 2025 for Grade 1, 2023 and 2026 for Grade 2, to track progress in the year-wise outcomes to be achieved by the year 2026-27 by each state UT. Participation in NAS, with the focus of NEP 2020 on foundational learning, NAS for foundational learning would be conducted in 2021 to understand the system-level preparedness and functioning. Further, a study will be undertaken by NCERT which will be the first large-scale assessment and benchmarking study for foundational literacy including oral reading fluency across different languages in India. It is envisioned to be positioned as a subsystem study under the main National Achievement Survey NAS 2021 to extrapolate and understand the learning levels vis-a-vis the advancement in the grades. Development of a robust technology-enabled monitoring mechanism. Technology will be used to track children's learning progress and prepare a database of class children achievement and also for development of dashboard at national level. Under this, state and UTs will also have school, CRC, BRC, district and state level information. For this purpose, child tracking provisions have been made under existing national component and MIS. Formation of PMU at national, state and district level. The FLN mission will require a targeted planning and implementation at the grassroots level with rigorous monitoring at different levels. Therefore, provision has been made for setting up Project Monitoring Unit 35 PAGA. PMU at national, state and UT district level. The role of the state PMU is to develop an annual roadmap for the mission and annual implementation plans for the state and districts by assisting districts in creating a district action plan in addition to setting actionable goals for the state and district based on national level goals. On the other hand, DIETs along with the district PMU to be given the responsibility of teacher capacity building, monitoring of schools, supporting teachers in adopting new pedagogical practices, research, documentation of good practices, awareness generation, dissemination of the goals of the national mission etc. For setting up and functional cost of PMU at state UT level, annual financial support will be provided at Rs. 25 lakh to Rs. 1 crore per state UT. For setting up and functional cost of PMU at district level, annual financial support will be provided from Rs. 6 to Rs. 24 lakh per district, based on the size and population. Role of volunteers, community parents. Under this, state and UTs shall prepare their own guidelines for innovatively engaging volunteers, community parents, and peer groups in contributing towards the goal of achieving FLN for all grade 3 students. 3.4 Expected outcomes: reducing the dropouts substantially and improve the transition rate, conducive learning environment in classrooms, empowered teachers through intensive capacity building, innovative pedagogies, such as experiential learning, activity-based learning etc. Used by teachers, holistic development of the child by focusing on different domains. 3.5 Monitoring mechanism: monitoring will be through NDER, Diksha Portal, PRABANDH, Vidya Samiksha Kendras at center and state levels, and reporting by the BRC and CRC coordinators. In addition, it will be monitored through the PGI indicators 1.1.2, 1.1.3, 1.1.4, 1.1.6 and 1.2.3. The key performance indicators for the component are given at Appendix X. 36 PAGA. Lakshya targets for foundational literacy and numeracy. Balvatika or age 5 to 6. Oral language. 1. Talks to friends and teachers 2. Sings rhymes poems with understanding. Reading. 1. Looks at books and attempts reading the story with the help of pictures 2. Begins to point out and recognize some familiar repeated words, sight words or words on containers, food wrappers 3. Recognizes letters and corresponding sounds 4. Reads simple words comprising of at least 2 to 3 alphabets. Writing. 1. Imitates act of writing during play, begins to form recognizable letters. 2. Scribbles, draws and paints for self-expression. 3. Uses a pencil and holds it properly to form recognizable letters. 4. Recognizes and writes his/her own first name. Numeracy. 1. Counts objects and correlates numerals up to 10. 2. Recognizes and reads numerals up to 10. 3. Compares two groups in terms of number of objects and uses words like more than, less than, equal to etc. 4. Arranges numbers, objects, shapes, occurrence of events in a sequence. 5. Classifies objects based on their observable characteristics and communicates the criteria of classification. 6. Uses vocabulary for comparative words like longer, longest, taller, tallest, shorter, shortest, heavier than, lighter than etc. in the context of different objects around him/her. Class 1 or age 6 to 7. Oral language. 1. Converses with friends and class teacher about her needs, surroundings. 2. Talks about the print available in the classroom. 3. Recites rhymes, poems, songs with action. Reading. 4. Participates during read aloud storytelling session in an active way and answers questions during and after story session. Acts out familiar story with props and puppets. 5. Uses sound symbol correspondence to write words with invented spellings. 6. Reads small sentences consisting of at least 4 to 5 simple words in an age-appropriate unknown text. Writing. 7. Develops familiarity with mattress in the words occurring in familiar contexts, story, poems, environment, print etc. 8. Writes, draws, and/or make things to convey meaning and represent names on her/his worksheet, greeting messages, draws pictures that are recognizable objects, people. Numeracy. 9. Counts objects up to 2010. Reads and writes numbers up to 9911. Using addition and subtraction of numbers up to 9 in daily life situations. 12. Observes and describes physical properties of 3D shapes, solid shapes around him/her like round flat surfaces, number of corners and edges etc. 13. Estimates and verifies length using non-standard non-uniform units like hand span, footstep, fingers etc. and capacity using non-standard uniform units like cup, spoon, mug etc. 14. Creates and recites short poems and stories using shapes and numbers. 37 PAGA. Class 2 or age 7 to 8. Oral language. 1. Converses and talks about the print available in the classroom. 2. Engages in conversation to ask questions and listens to others. 3. Recites songs, poems. 4. Repeats familiar words occurring in stories, poems, print etc. Reading. 1. Reads and narrates, retells the stories from children's literature textbook. 2. Makes new words from the letters of a given word. 3. Reads unknown text of 8 to 10 sentences with simple words with appropriate speed, approximately 30 to 45 words per minute, correctly and clarity. Writing. 1. Writes short simple sentences correctly to express herself. 2. Recognizes naming words, action words and punctuation marks. Numeracy. 1. Reads and writes numbers up to 999. 2. Uses addition and subtraction of numbers up to 99, some not exceeding 99 in daily life situations. 3. Performs multiplication as repeated addition and division as equal distribution, sharing, and constructs multiplication facts tables of 2, 3 and 4x4. Estimates and measures length, distance, capacity using non-standard uniform units like rod, pencil, thread, cup, spoon, mug etc. And compares weight using simple balance. 5. Identifies and describes 2D shapes like rectangle, triangle, circle, oval etc. 6. Uses spatial vocabulary like far, near, in, out, above, below, left, right, front, behind, top, bottom etc. 7. Creates and solves simple riddles using numbers and shapes. Class 3 or age 8 to 9. Oral language. 1. Converses with clarity using suitable vocabulary in home school language. 2. Talks about the print available in the classroom. 3. Engages in conversation to ask questions, narrate experiences, listens to others, and respond. 4. Recites poems individually and in group with intonation and modulation of voice. Reading. 1. Finds information in familiar books, textbooks. 2. Reads at least 60 words per minute correctly and with comprehension depending on the language and with correct pronunciation from an age-appropriate unknown text. 3. Reads and follows instructions given in the text. 4. Can answer at least 3 out of 4 questions based on reading of an age-appropriate unknown story paragraph of 8 to 10 sentences. Writing. 1. Writes short messages for different purposes. 2. Uses action words, naming words and punctuation marks for writing. 3. Writes grammatically correct sentences. 4. Writes short paragraph and short stories on his own with grammatically correct sentences. Numeracy. 1. Reads and writes numbers up to 9,999. 2. Solves daily life problems using addition and subtraction of numbers up to 999, some not exceeding 999. 38 PAGA. 3. Constructs and uses multiplication facts tables of numbers 2 to 10 and uses division facts. 4. Estimates and measures length, distance, weight and capacity using standard units like m, km, g, kilogram, liters etc. 5. Identifies and relates basic 2D shapes with 3D shapes, solid shapes, and describes their properties like faces, number of edges and corners etc. 6. Identifies a particular date and corresponding day on a calendar. Reads time on a clock in hours and half hours. 7. Identifies half, 1/4, 3/4 of a whole in a collection of objects. 8. Identifies, extends, and communicates rules for simple patterns on numbers, events, and shapes. 39 PAGA. Chapter 4. Access and Retention. 4.1 Major Goals. Ensure universal access and afford opportunity to all children of the country to obtain quality holistic education from preschool to grade 12. Provide effective and sufficient infrastructure so that all students have access to safe and engaging school education at all levels from pre-primary to grade 12 by a. Upgrading, opening new schools. b. Strengthening of existing schools. Ensure that all children have the opportunity to attend a quality school and learn at the appropriate level by a. Providing residential schools, hostels. b. Providing safe and practical transport, escort facility. 4.2 Context. Samagra Shiksha covers the entire school education sector starting from early childhood care and education to senior secondary level and adopts a holistic systemic approach in supporting, among others, strategic interventions of states, UTs to improve equitable access, retention and learning outcomes, given the geophysical and socio-economic contexts of states, UTs. This chapter deals with access and retention, components of school education being supported by Samagra Shiksha. Broadly, access to school education is understood as ensuring equitable schooling provisions, i.e. making schools equivalent institutions available to children as per distance neighborhood norms. Ensuring basic standards in the provision of school infrastructure, including ancillary facilities like electricity, rainwater harvesting, drinking water, sanitation etc. as per norms. Ensuring basic standards in teaching learning facilities, including material, equipment, ICT infrastructure, labs, libraries, etc. as per norms. And desired standards in the deployment of non-teaching and teaching staff, including core subject teachers as per norms. Conceptually, access to schooling also includes participation component of school education, which primarily focuses on assessing current and future demands for school education by studying past and present enrollment trends and patterns, and projecting the likely enrollment at various stages of school education in the coming years. Profiling the characteristics of students and out-of-school children (OOSC), and identifying factors affecting participation and/or non-participation. This chapter also partially deals with this aspect of access to school education by discussing possible interventions to mainstream the out-of-school children. 40 PAGA. The concept of retention in school education is understood as improving efficiency of school education by managing students' progression flow through the school education cycle by reducing dropouts and repetition rates as well as improving stage transition rates. This component of school education is also concerned about improving quality of teaching and learning and thereby improving school completion rates in the desired, ideal number of years in order to reduce huge wastages of public resources that occur because of dropouts and grade repetitions. This chapter also discusses possible interventions along with related programmatic and financial norms, which are aimed at improving retention in school education. Equity and inclusion are the two guiding principles of planning and managing program interventions related to access and retention in school education. The scheme recognizes the critical importance of factoring in various elements of inclusion and equity, understood as a principle that supports diversity among all learners and a concern with fairness. 10. What it implies is that every learner matters and matters equally. For improving access and retention in school education, the scheme, therefore, extends support to relevant program interventions and activities of states (UTs), which are aimed at reducing physical distance in accessing school education, reducing uneven distribution of infrastructure and teaching learning facilities and teacher deployment across schools as per norms and standards, identifying all types of barriers to equitable access and retention in school education, with particular focus on reasons for dropouts, repetition, low rates of school completion, transition loss between stages of school education, etc. And reducing disparities in access to education by eliminating social exclusion resulting from discriminatory attitudes and practices about social class, ethnicity, religion, gender, and ability. 10. UNESCO 2017. A Guide for Ensuring Inclusion and Equity in Education. Paris, UNESCO. Inclusion in education is increasingly seen internationally as a principle that supports diversity amongst learners in a given country context. 41 PAGA. Figure 4.1 Key Programmatic Components for Improved Retention in School Education. Figure 4.2 Key Programmatic Components for Ensuring Equitable Access to School Education. AQUITABLAACCASSTOSC Education. Physical access to school. Establishing new schools and upgrading existing schools on the basis of GIS. Mapping. Providing transport and escort facilities for disadvantaged children and those in remote and difficult areas. Residential schools and hostels, KGBVs. Mainstreaming of out-of-school children (OOSC). Special training. NIOS and State Open School. In-school provisions, including infrastructure, TLM, teaching and non-teaching staff, etc. Strengthening of existing schools, infrastructure, including ancillary facilities, etc. Managing teaching and non-teaching staff. Equity, i.e. dealing with social and economic distances by reducing social and economic disparities in access to school education. Strategic intervention, cumulative disadvantages, girls and children with special needs like incentives, awards and other benefits. Creating school complexes and identifying the lead schools and related institutional arrangements for governance of the school complex. As per NEP 2020. Improving retention in school education. Tracking, monitoring and reporting student flow and schooling status, i.e. monitoring retention and grade school completion through tracking schooling status of children in the SDMIS. Managing dropouts and grade repetitions, i.e. identify potential dropouts, and reducing dropout rates and grade repetitions. Targeted interventions for improving retention and school completion rates of disadvantaged children and children with special needs. 42 PAGA. 4.3 Targets. Samagra Shiksha would support states (UTs) to make concerted efforts towards reaching the following targets to ensure equitable and universal access and retention in school education. Reaching the target of 100% girl in school education by 2030 as envisaged in the NEP 2020. ensuring that no child is deprived of education of satisfactory quality due to gender, socio-economic, disability and other barriers, making primary and upper primary schools, sections available in the neighborhood of all children in the age group 6 to 14 years as per provisions laid down in the RTE Act. Making secondary and senior secondary schools, sections available to all eligible Class 8 graduates within the physical distance of 5-10 kilometers from their place of residence. Reducing gaps in infrastructure, in school facilities in secondary and senior secondary schools, sections as per state UT norms by taking a whole school approach. Bringing all out-of-school children back into the educational fold as early as possible. The broad development goal is to ensure that more and more children participate, progress through grades and complete school education in time. In other words, states' UTs need to make concerted efforts to reduce dropouts and repetition rates in order to ensure improved student flow and completion rates in school education. Accordingly, state UT-specific development goals and SMART-specific, measurable, achievable, realistic and time-frame targets should be provided in the perspective plan. While developing proposals for improving retention, targets may be articulated in terms of percentage changes in the KPIs viz. Promotion rate, dropout rate, repetition rate and completion rate in a given year over and above the base year values. 4.4 Ensuring equitable access to school education. Samagra Shiksha aims at ensuring equitable access by addressing development challenges for reducing physical, social and economic barriers and maintaining basic standards in infrastructure and other in-school facilities like TLM, ICT, labs, libraries and deployment of teachers for delivering inclusive quality school education. Prioritization of interventions on the basis of analysis of current status and trends in access to school education as a front-loading strategy is required to create an enabling school environment for promoting engagement of teachers and students. In the following sections, a brief description of possible interventions for improving access, programmatic and financial norms has been provided. 4.4.1 Equitable physical access to school. Given the development goals and targets, among others, the following broad strategic options may be considered in program district planning on the basis of sector diagnosis and GIS mapping for ensuring equitable access to school education. I. Providing physical access to school units as per norms by establishing new schools sections. Upgrading existing schools. 43 PAGA. Establishing residential schools, creating hostel facilities. Providing transport and escort facilities. E. Strengthening infrastructure and in-school facilities in the existing schools by strengthening of existing schools by filling in gaps in infrastructure. Maintaining existing assets, including school building, ancillary facilities like toilets, hand wash and sanitation facilities, drinking water, etc. E. Identifying and mainstreaming out-of-school children by undertaking micro-planning exercises with household survey in the catchment area of a given school and child tracking. Providing special training residential and non-residential. Redeploying unutilized government buildings and infrastructure, establishing new residential schools for reaching out to urban deprived, including street children. Strengthening open schooling system. IV. Reducing gender, social and economic disparities in access to school education by providing incentives like free textbooks, uniforms, stipends, and the like. Creating school complexes for efficient and effective sharing of resources such as labs, libraries, teaching staff, playground, training facilities, ICT infrastructure, including facilities for professional development of teachers. Deployment of female teachers and constructing residential quarters for female teachers in remote and difficult-to-reach areas. And providing disabled-friendly infrastructure and other facilities. Depending on the level of development of school education in a given district state UT, an appropriate mix of the above-mentioned strategies may be used while planning and implementing strategic interventions for improving access to school education. It may be noted that prioritization of strategies supported by data would facilitate appraisal for funding and performance monitoring. Among others, the following strategic interventions are suggested for ensuring equitable access to school education. Undertaking Geographical Information System, GIS-based school mapping for establishing new schools and upgrading existing schools following the norms laid down by the State UT and the RTE Act 2009 at the elementary level, and State UT norms at the secondary and higher secondary levels. Providing safe and practical transport and escort facilities. Establishing residential schools and hostels in remote and difficult areas, expanding open schooling system by strengthening NIOS and state open schools. A brief description of the key aspects of these interventions, related KPIs for performance monitoring and evaluation, and programmatic norms and financial norms have been provided in the following sections. 4.4.2 Geographical Information System, GIS-based school mapping for establishing new schools and upgrading existing schools. 44 PAGA. Samagra Shiksha aims at reaching out to all children of early childhood care and education to senior secondary level, and accordingly, supports planned provision of schooling facilities. The COVID pandemic has shown the need for resilience and multidimensional models in education. Under the One Class One TV channel initiative, 12 Swayam Prabha channels are earmarked for school education and more than 7,000 programs have been produced. To ensure coherent access through multimodal delivery, the broadcasted content is organized by chapter and topics on Diksha to ensure asynchronous usage by anyone, anytime, anywhere. Further, access to TV channels is being expanded substantially to 200 TV channels. This will enable all states to provide supplementary education in regional languages for classes 1 to 12. For expansion of schooling facility, state UTs may establish new school or upgrading existing school in unserved areas. For this purpose, states UTs would need to do an analysis of access to school education facilities on the basis of Geographical Information System (GIS)-based school mapping exercise. The primary purpose of undertaking the GIS-based school mapping as a locational planning technique is to ensure that all habitations villages have access to all levels of school education of an acceptable quality as per norms, while ensuring optimum utilization of resources and avoiding overlap. The GIS-based school mapping is generally carried out using primary data on longitude and latitude of location of habitations and existing schools, road and communication networks, along with actual and projected school age population, UDIS plus data on enrollment, teachers and school infrastructure, and state UT-specific norms and standards for establishing and managing school networks. The outcomes of the GIS-based school mapping, and the proposals for establishing new schools and upgrading existing schools need to be validated by undertaking participatory community-based school mapping. The GIS-based school mapping would inform planning for location and upgradation of schools at all levels by generating following data and information: number and names of habitations served by primary, upper primary, secondary and higher secondary schools sections as per norms. Number, names of unserved habitations village at different levels of school education. Alternative options for location of new schools for covering unserved habitations villages for citing the proposed school units on the basis of data on potential number of beneficiaries, school age population in the catchment area for efficient allocation of funds. Identification of existing schools for upgradation and the number of schools in its catchment area, feeder schools, which would also help assess the potential enrollment in the upgraded school. Gaps in school infrastructure, in-school facilities and teacher deployment. Distribution of schools with preschool sections. Anganwadis within the school campus, etc. Distribution of senior secondary schools by subjects offered by arts, science and commerce. Distribution of schools offering vocational courses. List of very small and non-viable schools at all levels. 45 PAGA. The community-based school mapping is a powerful means of mobilizing the community to validate and endorse the results of the GIS-based school mapping and to ensure that children attend schools regularly and complete all levels of school education from preschool to class 12. Hence, there is need to work towards enhancing participation of the community, parents, teachers and children by involving them in key decisions affecting the education of children. Such a mapping exercise helps in the identification of gaps or unserved areas, habitations, villages and planning for providing schooling facilities. This sort of manual mapping involving community and all other stakeholders also facilitates creation of database of schools and habitations villages using standard data capturing formats. These formats help in measuring the correct distances walking, cycling distance by road based on local topography, geographical features, which further help to identify the appropriate location for opening, upgradation of new school. It is important to note that the GIS-based school mapping and the community-based school mapping are complementary to each other, and therefore, one cannot be replaced by the other. Both have their own benefits and supplement each other. If the results of both forms of mapping are used collaboratively, it will help determine the changes necessary in schools, and build a dynamic vision of education services, including infrastructure, teachers, and equipment required. 4.4.3 Suggested Interventions at Elementary Level. The RTE Act, 2009 provides a rights-based perspective to the education of children at elementary level. It provides a justiciable legal framework that entitles all children between the ages of 6 to 14 years to an education of reasonable quality, based on principles of equity and non-discrimination. More importantly, it provides for the child's right to education that is free from fear, stress and anxiety. The RTE Act, 2009 also lays down the responsibilities of teachers. A. Provisions under RTE Act 2009. To ensure equitable access to school education, the salient features of the RTE Act 2009 are as follows: right of children to free and compulsory education till completion of elementary education in a neighborhood school. Education means A. Provisions under RTE Act 2009. To ensure equitable access to school education, the salient features of the RTE Act 2009 are as follows: right of children to free and compulsory education till completion of elementary education in a neighborhood school. Compulsory education means obligation of the appropriate government to provide free elementary education and ensure compulsory admission, attendance and completion of elementary education to every child in the 6 to 14 age group. Free means that no child shall be liable to pay any kind of fee or charges or expenses which may prevent him or her from pursuing and completing elementary education. It makes provision for a non-admitted or dropout child to be admitted to an age-appropriate class with provision of special training in order to be at par with other children. It specifies the duties and responsibilities of appropriate governments, local authority and parents in providing free and compulsory education and sharing of financial and other responsibilities between the central and state governments. It lays down the norms and standards relating inter alia to pupil-teacher ratios, PTRs, buildings and infrastructure, school working days, teacher working hours, etc. It provides for rational deployment of teachers by ensuring that the specified pupil 46 PAGA teacher ratio is maintained for each school, rather than just as an average for the state or district or block, thus ensuring that there is no urban-rural imbalance in teacher postings. It also provides for prohibition of deployment of teachers for non-educational work, other than decennial census, elections to local authority, state legislatures and parliament, and disaster relief. It provides for appointment of appropriately trained teachers, i.e., teachers with the requisite entry and academic qualifications. It prohibits physical punishment and mental harassment. B. Screening procedures for admission of children. C. Capitation fee. D. Private tuition by teachers and A. Running of schools without recognition. It provides for development of curriculum in consonance with the values enshrined in the Constitution, and which would ensure the all-round development of the child, building on the child's knowledge, potentiality and talent and making the child free of fear, trauma and anxiety through a system of child-friendly and child-centered learning. It provides penalties: A. For charging capitation fee, fine up to 10 times the capitation fee charged. B. For resorting to screening during admission, 25,000 rupees for first contravention, 50,000 rupees for each subsequent contravention. And C. For running a school without recognition, fine up to Rs 1 lakh, and in case of continuing contravention 10 rupees, OO for each day during which the contravention continues. It provides for protection and monitoring of the child's right to free and compulsory education and redressal of grievances by constitutionally created independent bodies of the national and state commissions for protection of child rights. The Act under Section 19(1) also stipulates that all schools will fulfill the norms and standards pertaining to teachers, building, working and instructional hours and resources as specified in the schedule of the Act. The Act under Sections 8 and 9 makes it obligatory for the appropriate government and local authority to ensure neighborhood schools as prescribed under Section 6. Further, the Act places a compulsion on the state to ensure that no child from the weaker sections or disadvantaged groups is discriminated against in any manner or prevented from pursuing and completing elementary education. B. Section 6 and 38(2)(b) of the RTE Act. It may be noted that access to elementary education shall continue to be as per Section 6 and 38(2)(b) of the RTE Act, which provides for the following. Section 6. The appropriate governments and local authorities shall establish, within the area or limits of a neighborhood, a school, where it is not already established, within a period of 3 years from the commencement of the Act. Section 38. 1. The appropriate government may, by notification, make rules for carrying out the provisions of this Act. 2. In particular, and without prejudice to the generality of the foregoing powers, such rules may provide for all or any of the following matters, namely, OB. The area or limits for establishment of a neighborhood school under Section 6. Accordingly, the new primary and upper primary schools will be provided as per the defined area or limits of the neighborhood notified by the state UT Government 47 PAGA, which is the appropriate government under the Act under the state UTRTE rules to ensure universal access to elementary schools. In pursuance to Section 6 of the RTE Act, 2009, the central government has notified the area or limits of neighborhood, applicable only for UTs without legislature, within which a school has to be established by the appropriate government or the local authority. Central rules provide for the following. Primary schools, in respect of children in classes I to V, a school shall be established within a walking distance of 1 kilometer of the neighborhood. Upper primary schools, in respect of children in classes V to 8, a school shall be established within a walking distance of 3 km of the neighborhood. Relaxation of norms in places with difficult terrain where there may be risk of landslides, floods, lack of roads and in general, danger for young children in the approach from their homes to the school. And appropriate and safe transportation arrangements to enable children with disabilities to attend school and complete elementary education. There has been a huge expansion of schooling facilities at elementary level across the country, and the country has achieved near universal access. State and UTs have also started consolidating, merging of schools with very low enrollment. It is underlined that consolidation merger of schools shall not in any case violate the right of access to school of a single child as per neighborhood norms notified by the respective state UT under the RTE Act 2009. However, before proposing upgradation of schools, the GIS-based school mapping may be analyzed at the ground level to estimate the actual requirement of the feasible primary and upper primary level schools. Priority may be given to uncovered villages having highest population. While determining the need for access of children to neighborhood schools, the GIS-based school mapping exercise should factor in the availability of seats for children from disadvantaged groups and weaker sections not only in government and local body schools, but also in aided, unaided and special category schools. Assistance for recurring expenditure in new primary and upper primary schools would be supported under Samagra Shiksha up to Rs. 10 lakh per school, including manpower deployment as prescribed in norms, subject to provision of teachers, infrastructure, TLE teaching, learning equipment and facilities as mandated under the RTE Act, 2009, including, there should not be single teacher schools and at upper primary level, at least one teacher per class so that there shall be at least one teacher each for I, science and mathematics, E, social studies, E, languages. Provision of additional teachers as per the enrollment size in each school. And for upper primary schools, building as per infrastructure norms prescribed under the RTE Act, in the campuses of existing primary schools. 4.4.4 Reimbursement under Section 12(1)(c). Apart from the above provisions, Section 12 of the RTE Act also makes provisions for augmenting access to school, especially for children belonging to disadvantaged groups and weaker sections. Section 12 of RTE Act 2009 mandates that, 48 PAGA. All government and local body schools shall provide free and compulsory education to all children enrolled therein. All aided schools receiving aid or grants to meet whole or part of its expenses shall provide free and compulsory education to such proportion of children as its annual recurring aid or grants, subject to a minimum of 25%. And all unaided and specified category schools, namely Kendriya Vidyalay, Navodaya Vidyalay, Sainik schools or any other school having a distinct character as specified by notification by the state government UT, shall provide free and compulsory education to at least 25% children belonging to weaker sections and disadvantaged groups in the neighborhood. 11. The reimbursement towards expenditure incurred for 25% admissions in private unaided schools under Section 12(1)(c) of the RTE Act is supported under the Samagra Shiksha, provided that where such school is already under obligation to provide free education to a specified number of children on account of it having received any land, building, equipment or other facilities, either free of cost or at a concessional rate, such school shall not be entitled for reimbursement to the extent of such obligation. Other conditions are as follows: notification regarding disadvantaged groups and weaker sections. In order to establish the eligibility of children, states UTs are required to notify the disadvantaged groups and weaker sections for admission in private unaided schools under S. 12(1)(c). Admission under Section 12(1)(c). After notifying the disadvantaged groups and weaker sections, state and UTs are required to start the admissions of these groups to private unaided school in Class 1, to the extent of at least 25% of the strength of that class. Provided further that where a school specified in Clause N of Section 2 of the RTE Act imparts preschool education, The provision of clauses A to C shall apply for admission to such preschool education. State and UTs should develop a transparent and user-friendly system for admission under Section 12(1)(c) so that children from all disadvantaged groups and weaker sections are able to apply. State and UTs shall also establish help desks, facilitation counters etc. at appropriate locations to facilitate children from disadvantaged groups and weaker sections in admission process. State and UTs should also establish grievances redressal mechanism to address issues related to admission procedure, selection process, discrimination of any kind and other issues related to the implementation of S12 of the RTE Act. Notification regarding per child expenditure, as per S. 12(2) of the RTE Act, an unaided private school admitting children under S. 12(1)(c) shall be reimbursed expenditure so incurred by it to the extent of per child expenditure incurred by the state, or the actual amount charged from the child, whichever is less, in such manner as may be prescribed. Therefore, state and UTs are required to notify per child expenditure for reimbursement to private unaided schools against admission of children belonging to disadvantaged groups and weaker sections under S. 12(1)(c) and 2. Notify declare child entitlements such as tuition fees, cost of textbooks, cost of uniform, midday meal and other expenses, whichever applicable, that are included in the notified per child. 11. Guidelines regarding procedure for 25% admission of children belonging to weaker section and disadvantaged groups from the neighborhood under Section 12(1)(c) and 13(1) of the RTE Act issued with a notification dated 23 November 2010 may be seen at web links. 49. PAGA. Expenditure. Thus, the child shall not be required to pay against the notified declared child entitlements. Private unaided schools complying with the provision of Section 12(1)(c) are entitled for reimbursement. States UTs are required to develop a transparent system mechanism for receiving the proposal of reimbursement from private unaided schools. 2. Validation verification of the proposal by the competent authorities. 3. Reimbursement to private unaided schools against the verified proposal and IV mechanism for grievance redressal for private schools. States UTs must ensure that private schools are timely reimbursed against their verified claim and all the proposals of an academic session are settled within next financial year. Identification of private unaided schools not entitled for reimbursement, as per proviso in Section 12(2) of the RTE Act, provided that where such school is already under obligation to provide free education to a specified number of children on account of it having received any land, building, equipment or other facilities, either free of cost or at a concessional rate, such school shall not be entitled for reimbursement to the extent of such obligation. All states UTs implementing the provision contained under Section 12(1)(c) of the RTE Act are required to identify all those private schools which have received land or any other assistance from government or any of its agencies and ensure that such schools are not reimbursed against admissions under Section 12(1)(c) to the extent of their obligation. For this purpose, the Education Department of the concerned state UT would require to liaison with authorities dealing with land allotments such as revenue, urban local bodies, Panchayati Raj and Forest Department etc. Data upload on PRABANDH portal online module. The Department of School Education, Ministry of Education, has developed an online module for compiling the child-wise and school-wise data pertaining to reimbursement made by states UTs to private schools against admissions of children under Section 12(1)(c) of the RTE Act. State and UTs are also required to upload the details on PRABANDH portal of those private unaided schools which have received land or other assistance from the appropriate government, local authority and are, thus, exempted from receiving reimbursement against admissions under Section 12(1)(c). The State Education Secretary will need to give an undertaking that reimbursement has not been claimed for any school exempt under the Act. Financial support towards reimbursement to private unaided schools. Under Samagra Shiksha, financial assistance is available to states, UTs against their expenditure incurred towards reimbursement to the eligible private unaided schools for admissions as per the provision of S. 12(1)(c) of the RTE Act. The reimbursement would be based on expenditure incurred by the respective state UT as per child norms notified by the state UT for classes C to 8 subject to a maximum ceiling of 20% of the total annual work plan and budget AWP and B approved for that state UT under the scheme. The reimbursement will be given on the basis of school-wise child-wise details provided by the state UT on PRABANDH portal. States UTs having reimbursed to private schools for admissions under Section 12(1)(c) are entitled to claim financial support under Samagra Shiksha subject to fulfilling the following conditions: I. Sharing of the notification of per child expenditure by the state UT for the concerned academic session. 50 PAGA. E. Submission of utilization certificate UC or an undertaking regarding expenditure already incurred by the state UT towards reimbursement to private schools. E. Data upload on PRABANDH portal regarding reimbursement to private schools. Further, a robust, transparent, and online monitoring mechanism needs to be developed by the states to oversee the admission of eligible children from class 1 to 8, under S. 12(1)(c) and the reimbursement process in a transparent manner. 4.4.5 Suggested interventions at secondary and higher secondary levels. In view of the fact that secondary and higher secondary education provides an essential bridge to higher education, the expansion of schooling facility at secondary and higher secondary levels has been envisaged under Samagra Shiksha. For providing universal access to quality secondary education, the neighborhood norms notified by the state UT would be applicable for opening of new secondary and senior secondary schools. In the case of states UTs, which have not notified the neighborhood norms for secondary and senior secondary schools, the scheme will provide support for access to secondary school within a distance of 5 km and senior secondary school within 7 to 10 km of a habitation while ensuring their viability, i.e., ensuring adequate enrollment and cost effectiveness, while keeping in mind the geographical, socio-cultural, linguistic and demographic condition of not just the state UT but also, wherever necessary, of the locality. States UTs will identify requirement of new secondary and senior secondary schools through upgradation on the basis of GIS-based school and habitation village mapping and micro-planning. Evidence of the micro-planning and school mapping exercises should also be provided in the district plans, which will be consolidated into state plans. The outcomes of the GIS-based school mapping may be uploaded in the GIS portal www.chuljas.nic. In and analyzed at the ground level to estimate the requirement of secondary and higher secondary schools sections additional streams in higher secondary schools, so that all habitations villages in the district state have equitable access to secondary and higher secondary education within the prescribed norms, in a phased manner. To diagnose the access situation and set the access targets for the state, gross access ratio GAR is much relevant indicator at secondary and higher secondary level. Gross access ratio GAR 12 is calculated by considering the served habitations or villages by the secondary or higher secondary schools within specified distance norm in a specific year. All categories of schools, government, government-aided and private schools should be taken into account, while calculating gross access ratio and accordingly the requirement of secondary and higher secondary schools sections additional streams in higher secondary schools should be estimated. Samagra Shiksha supports to set up new upgrade secondary and senior secondary schools in deficient or unserved areas on the basis of the Perspective Plan 3 to 5 years plan worked. 12 Gross access ratio for secondary schools, total no. Of villages or habitations having secondary schools or sections within specified distance norm in a specific year total number of habitations in that year. Gross access ratio for higher secondary schools, total no. Of villages or habitations having higher secondary schools or sections within specified distance norm in a specific year total number of villages or habitations in that year 51 PAGA. Out through micro-planning by state governments. Priority may be given to uncovered villages having highest population. The first priority would be strengthening of existing secondary and higher secondary schools, after that the second priority would be provision of additional sections in the existing schools. And the third priority, upgradation of existing upper primary to secondary as well as secondary to senior secondary school. Opening of new standalone secondary and senior secondary schools should be the last priority, which should be done as an exceptional measure only in unserved areas. In a secondary school, preferably 2 sections each for classes IX to X would be provided, for which adequate number of students should be available in the catchment area. For a senior secondary section school to be viable in terms of teachers and other facilities, it is desirable to have 2 sections for each subject. A school that offers a single subject of study, the total number of students in grade 11 would be 60-30 students per section and 60 students in grade 12. Thus, the number of students in a school offering a single subject of study would be 120. In a school that offers 2-subject combination of study, the total number of students in grade 11 would be 124 sections and 120 students in grade 12. In a school that offers 3 additional subjects, the total number of students in grade 11 would be 186 sections and 180 students in grade 12. Opening of new senior secondary and secondary sections schools, or upgradation of upper primary schools to secondary senior secondary level would include provision of additional classrooms with furniture. 4 classrooms for a 2-section secondary school and 2 classrooms for a single-section secondary school. 4 classrooms for each stream in a 2-section senior secondary school and 2 classrooms for each stream in a single-section senior secondary school. Library, laboratories, vocational lab. 1 integrated science laboratory for a secondary school and 4 laboratories for physics, chemistry, biology and mathematics in a senior secondary school having respective science subjects. Computer room, headmaster room, art and craft room, drinking water facility, separate toilets with water facility for boys, girls and CWSN. Provision for rain harvesting system, solar panel etc. In the building plan itself. All school buildings will be so designed as to make them disabled friendly. The detail of these interventions related with civil works has been given in section Civil Works, Samagra Shiksha. The recurring assistance includes manpower deployment in new upgraded secondary senior secondary schools. All upgraded new secondary schools should be provided subject-wise teachers for all the core subjects, support for arts and crafts, sports and physical education and co-curricular activities. For the new upgraded senior secondary schools, which are set up under the scheme, a lump sum recurring assistance including manpower deployment has been provisioned. In case of vacant posts in the new upgraded schools, recurring cost will be reduced accordingly. Key programmatic norms related to this intervention have been given in Section 3 of Programmatic and Financial Norms, Samagra Shiksha, at Appendix 52 PAGA. 4.4.6 Providing safe and practical transport and/or escort facilities. To address inadequacy of access in certain pockets, transport facility may be explored as an option. The scheme provides for children's access to elementary and secondary schools through transport and escort facility for children in remote habitations with sparse populations or in urban areas where availability of land is a problem, or children belonging to extremely deprived groups or children with special needs CWSN. To avail this facility, State UT must notify the area limits of neighborhood in which transport escort facility is to be provided to the specified categories of the children. Any student traveling a distance of more than 1.0 km for primary school, 3.0 km for attending upper primary school respectively as per the RTE rules, and more than 5.0 km for attending a secondary school, may be provided transportation facility by bus, minibus, auto, other mode of transport like motorboat, etc. To reach the school, convergence with State Transportation Department needs to be explored in this regard. The provision for transport escort facility will be provided in exceptional circumstances only as per proposals presented by the state justifying the need and reasons for not opening a regular school. The transport charges should be allowed only to children studying in the nearest school managed by the government local body. The children attending private aided and unaided schools are not entitled for this facility under any circumstances. Cash transfer will be in the form of DBT to Aadhaar-linked bank accounts linked to the actual attendance will be the mandatory mode. The actual transportation charges, up to the given norms based on actual cost to be incurred as per the distance by the children, may be provided. Every year before the submission of annual plan, the district should notify unserved habitations and submit a report to the state containing the details of habitation-wise names of children who are to be paid transport charges, unit cost, list of nearest schools where the children will attend, total amount to be paid to the children school-wise during the year etc. Approval of the activity will be based on receipt appraisal of district block-specific proposals from the state, justifying the need for providing transportation escort facility to children in sparsely populated, hilly densely forested desert terrains, as well as urban areas where non-availability of land makes it unviable to set up schools as per the neighborhood norms of the state. Key programmatic norms related to this intervention have been given in Section 3 of Programmatic and Financial Norms, Samagra Shiksha, at Appendix 4.4.7 Establishing residential schools and hostel facilities under Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose Avasya Vidyalas NSCBAVs. Samagra Shiksha supports the provision of residential facilities under the intervention entitled Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose Avasiya Vidyalay, with the primary purpose of reaching out 53 PAGA to girls, urban deprived and other disadvantaged children and creating equitable access to school education in remote, sparsely populated and difficult to reach areas, hilly terrains, areas affected by LWE, large uninhabited areas with natural barriers like forests, waterways, rivers, etc. The following categories of children may be considered as priority target groups while preparing state UT-specific proposals for establishing hostels and creating residential facilities in select existing schools. Children having no access to schooling provisions in remote and difficult-to-reach areas, hilly terrains, sparsely populated areas like deserts, tribal areas, and areas with natural barriers to reach existing schools. Migrant, nomadic children that require full-time schooling and hostel facility. Children belonging to disadvantaged families and are actually in need of hostel facility. Girls, urban deprived children, homeless children, and children in difficult distances, and children with special needs. Children residing in industrial areas, slums, seasonal migrants, disadvantaged urban adolescents like child labor etc. Children on the streets suffering from many denials and vulnerabilities like deprivation of responsible adult protection, coercion to work to eat each day, work in unhealthy occupations like rag picking, begging and sex work, abysmally poor sanitary conditions, inadequate nutrition, psychosocial stresses, physical and sexual exploitation and exposure to substance abuse. The scheme supports the provision of residential facilities which may be in the form of establishing hostels in the premises of an existing primary, upper primary, secondary and higher secondary school on the basis of GIS-based school mapping. Establishing standalone hostels for both boys and girls in a school complex or for a cluster of schools located in its neighborhood within 10 kilometers. Refurbishing of unused buildings for use as residential facilities for street children without adult protection with addition of infrastructure such as toilets, bathing spaces, kitchens etc. Opening a residential school, where primary, upper primary, secondary, higher secondary school does not exist, particularly in sparsely populated areas and hilly and difficult terrains, opening upgradation of a residential school may be explored. The norms for opening upgradation of existing residential schools are defined as under O primary to the upper primary level, UPS where establishment of UPS is not possible and having feeding primary schools or based on enrollment and transition of students from primary to the proposed upper primary level. O upper primary level to secondary level, where secondary school is not viable to open. These must have a minimum enrollment of 25 in the highest class. Or secondary school to higher secondary school where higher secondary school is not viable to open. There must be a minimum enrollment of 30 in the highest class. Further, the village population and magnitude of out-of-school children OOSC is also having a direct impact on the feasibility of the schools to be proposed for opening or upgradation. Following checklist is to be ensured while preparing the proposal for residential school hostel 54 PAGA. By the state UT, rationale for actual need of the residential school hostel. A survey should be conducted at the district state level or as per latest UDISE report for enrollment projection. As per survey report for establishing a new upgraded residential school hostel, minimum enrollment should be ensured as per above norms. OE survey report of identified children to be graduated in the schools and enrollment in the hostel duly verified by the district authority DOs, DPOs, ZDOs along with details of availability of schools within 5-7 km range. A solution in the meeting of SMCs, SMDCs of the existing schools pertaining to requirement of upgradation. Availability of land space along with land acquisition certificate availability proof khasre number. School mapping details indicating entire habitation information in respect of feeder schools availability, feasibility of mainstreaming OOSC age appropriate admission in the proposed schools hostels. The same may be done through GIS mapping followed up by a field level survey on the actual requirement and share the report of the same in the proposal. Details in respect to number of children belonging to all categories including BPL and migrant children. Photograph of the proposed location of schools hostels along with civil works details in case construction is involved. The design of the buildings should be inclusive to serve children with disabilities as well. It is also mentioned that broad norms are indicated here and provision may be made for each state UT keeping in mind the geographical, socio-cultural, linguistic and demographic condition of not just the state UT but also, wherever necessary, of the locality. While supporting interventions that aim at improving residential facilities in school education, preference will be given to educationally backward blocks EBS districts affected by LWEs, special focus districts SFDs and all 117 aspirational districts identified by the NITI Aayog. For the residential schools, hostels, which are set up under the scheme, assistance for recurring expenditure including manpower cost based on KGBV's girls' hostel norms has been provisioned. For detailed financial norm refer the chapter on Gender and Equity. State UT also needs to explore convergence with the Department of Tribal Affairs, Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment and Ministry of Minority Affairs for availing the facility of residential schools and hostels respectively at least for the SC/ST minority concentrated districts. Key programmatic norms related to this intervention have been given in Section 3 of Programmatic and Financial Norms, Samagra Siksha, at Appendix 4.4.8 Mainstreaming of out-of-school children OOSC. One of the key strategies to provide access to school education is to undertake targeted interventions to mainstream the out-of-school children. Accordingly, special training, providing residential facilities and other incentives are supported under Samagra Siksha. 55 PAGA. The Right of Children to Free and Compulsory Education Act, 2009 RTE Act mandates universal enrollment and retention of children in school till completion of their elementary education. The RTE Act 2009 also stipulates age-appropriate enrollment of out-of-school children and provisioning of special training for such children so that they can be at par with other children. Section 4 of the RTE Act stipulates, where a child above 6 years of age has not been admitted in any school or though admitted, could not complete his or her elementary education, then, he or she shall be admitted in a class appropriate to his or her age. Provided that where a child is directly admitted in a class appropriate to his or her age, then, he or she shall, in order to be at par with others, have a right to receive special training, in such manner, and within such time limits, as may be prescribed. Provided further that a child so admitted to elementary education shall be entitled to free education till completion of elementary education even after 14 years. National Education Policy 2020 also brought into focus the out-of-school children in the age group of 3 to 18 years and provides for ensuring inclusive and equitable quality education for all. As per Para 1 of Chapter 3 of NEP 2020, one of the primary goals of the schooling system must be to ensure that children are enrolled in and are attending school. It will be a top priority to bring all dropout children back into the educational fold as early as possible, and to prevent further students from dropping out, with a goal to achieve 100% gross enrollment ratio in AK to secondary level by 2030. Para 3. Alternative and innovative education centers will be put in place in cooperation with civil society to ensure that children of migrant laborers and other children who are dropping out of school due to various circumstances are brought back into mainstream education. Para 3.2. Universal participation in schools shall be achieved by carefully tracking students, as well as their learning levels, in order to ensure that they A. are enrolled in and attending school, and B. have suitable opportunities to catch up and re-enter school in case they have fallen behind or dropped out. Para 3.3 To facilitate learning for all students, with special emphasis on socio-economically disadvantaged groups, SEDGs, the scope of school education will be broadened to facilitate multiple pathways to learning involving both formal and non-formal education modes. Open and Distance Learning (ODL) programs offered by the National Institute of Open Schooling (NIOS) and state open schools will be expanded and strengthened for meeting the learning needs of young people in India who are not able to attend a physical school. Para 3.5. Accordingly, Samagra Siksha scheme aims at achieving universal enrollment and retention in the entire education cycle up to senior secondary level by providing a second chance to all out-of-school children including never enrolled and dropouts with focus on socially and economically disadvantaged groups (SEDG). As suggested in the NEP 2020, socio-economically disadvantaged groups (SEDGs) can be broadly categorized based on gender identities, particularly female and transgender individuals, socio-cultural identities, such as scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, OBCs, and minorities, geographical identities, such as students from villages, small towns, and aspirational districts, disabilities including learning disabilities, and socio-economic conditions such as migrant communities, low-income households, children in vulnerable situations, victims of or children of victims of trafficking, orphans including child beggars in urban areas, and the urban poor. The state's UTs are, therefore, suggested to define socio-economically disadvantaged 56 PAGA. Groups SEDGs taking into account disparities and historical underrepresentation of groups in education especially at the secondary level. The criterion for defining SEDGs should aim at bridging gender and social category gaps in all levels of school education. Identification of OOSC, identification of children who never enrolled, children or those who dropped out before completing elementary education. The various categories of out-of-school children may include child laborers, children living at construction sites as they belong to construction workers' families, children living or working in streets, on railway platforms or construction sites, and children without adult protection etc. They may be found engaged as domestic workers, engaged in cattle grazing, working for wages in dhabas, mechanic shops, rag pickers, and as shoe shine boys. Other categories may involve children of sex workers, children affected with migration, children affected with HIV, or those who have a disadvantage owing to social, cultural, economic, geographical, linguistic, gender, or such other factors. A large number of out-of-school children are children with special needs. For this, the state government, local authority, and school management committee need to undertake a community-level exercise for identification of out-of-school children. Enrollment drive motivational measures may be undertaken to bring out-of-school children to schools. Further, Scheme for Adolescent Girls (SAG) was being implemented by Ministry of Women and Child Development for out-of-school girls in the age group of 11 to 14 years. One of the aims of the scheme was to provide support to out-of-school age youths to successfully transition back to formal schooling or bridge learning skill training. The scheme has now been modified and subsumed under Saksham Anganwadi and Poshan 2.0 to cover adolescent girls in the age group of 14 to 18 years in aspirational districts and northeastern states. As such, the erstwhile beneficiaries of the SAG are being mapped into the Prabandh portal of Samagra Shiksha so as to enroll them in schools. All such identified girls will be assessed by Block Resource Center (BRC) for their learning levels and requirement of special training to be able to participate effectively in their age-appropriate classes. Through special training, girls would be provided bridge course transactions so as to develop appropriate academic competencies so that children are mainstreamed in regular formal schools in classes appropriate to their age. In addition, Child Development Project Officer (CDPO) in charge of the implementation of SAG and responsible for maintaining program-related data, codes would be mapped against the details of SAG beneficiaries available on Prabandh portal of Samagra Shiksha, and the same may be accessed by the Ministry of Women and Child Development also. States UTs to undertake a tabletop exercise at school level, aggregated to block district state level to identify specific dropouts from each grade each year. Each of these children, including CWSN, are to be pursued for retention. 4.4.9 Covering out-of-school children at elementary level through special training. The Samagra Shiksha scheme provides support for special training as envisaged under the RTE Act for out-of-school children who have been admitted to regular schools to ensure that they are integrated into the school system. Such support is given in the form of residential or non-residential courses, as needed, and such children may continue even beyond 14 years of 57 PAGA. Age to complete elementary education. This special training is based on a specially designed, age-appropriate learning material, approved by the Academic Authority as per the RTE Act, 2009. This training shall be provided by a teacher working in the school or a specially engaged teacher. These teachers will be provided additional training in order to conduct special training for out-of-school children. The steps involved for special training and mainstreaming are: The identification exercise should be followed by immediate enrollment in school with all entitlements enabling free education and updation of the details of the child on the PRABANDH portal module. Assessment of the need of special training. The duration of special training is flexible, depending on the child's needs, varying for a minimum period of 3 months which may be extended, based on a periodical evaluation of learning progress, for a maximum period of up to 2 years. Organization of special training to enable the child to be at par with other children. Special training may be organized in residential or non-residential mode, preferably in the premises of the school, but if such facilities are not available in school, alternate facilities which are safe, secure and accessible may be identified and used. Actual admission of the child in the age-appropriate class on completion of special training, and his/her participation in all class activities. At the end of the special training, the suitability of placing the child in a class may be assessed. For example, if a 10-year-old child was admitted to class 4 and received 2 years of special training till age 12, an assessment may be made as to whether the child could cope better in class 5 or in the formal school and the child should be appropriately placed. Continued support to the child, once admitted to the regular school, so that the child can integrate with the class socially, emotionally and academically. Even after a child is appropriately placed in the formal school, she may be given special attention by the teacher to enable her to successfully integrate with the rest of the class, academically and emotionally. Children who have enrolled in age-appropriate class after special training are entitled to free and compulsory elementary education even after completion of 14 years of age. Considering the enormity and complexities of the work involved in special training, all agencies which have the willingness and the ability to undertake this work must be encouraged to do so. For special training to never enrolled children or those who dropped out before completing elementary education, assistance for recurring expenditure has been provisioned under the Samagra Shiksha. The recurrent grant would be provided up to Rs. 600 per child per annum for non-residential mode and up to Rs. 20,000 per child per annum for residential mode. Item-wise costs for recurring expenditure would be worked out to provide adequate flexibility for the needs of different kinds of children, and approved by the State Executive Committee within the overall ceiling. It is also pertinent to mention that the 70% grant for conducting special training will be given to the state UT in the first installment. The remaining 30% grant will be released once the 58 PAGA children are mainstreamed. In case the children are mainstreamed in the same year, the state may certify the number of mainstreamed children and send supplementary proposal for remaining 30% of the grant. In case the duration of special training is more than 1 year or children are mainstreamed in next financial year, 30% grant will be reimbursed based on the certification and necessary document provided by the state UT. 4.4.10 Strategy to cover out-of-school children at secondary level. At secondary level, for out-of-school children in 16 to 19 years age group and belonging to socially and economically disadvantaged groups (SEDG), financial assistance is available to continue education through open distance learning mode under the scheme, if it is not possible to mainstream them into formal school. Following steps are suggested to facilitate completion of education for dropouts at senior secondary level. Identification of out-of-school children every year by undertaking school-wise and grade-wise tabletop exercise and listing individual students who are to be brought back. Identifying other dropouts with the help of school peer groups, local community, local self-governments, etc. Identifying OOS girls with the help of our workers. Identifying OOSC from Kaushal Panji maintained by MOD for all states. UT's maintenance of record of identified out-of-school children and updation on PRABA and DH portal module. Categorization of students as belonging to socially and economically disadvantaged groups. SEDG's motivational measures to complete school education or to join open schooling, facilitating admission in open school, either state open school or National Institute of Open Schooling. Provision of necessary academic support to students to cope with the requirement of learning. Monitoring of progress and continuation. The recurrent grant would be provided up to Rs. 2,000 per child per grade per annum for completing education through the open school system NIOS SIOS at senior secondary stage for registration, accessing course material and certification. Item-wise costs for recurring expenditure would be worked out to provide adequate flexibility for the needs of different kinds of children, and approved by the State Executive Committee within the overall ceiling. For SEDG children of age group of 16 to 19 enrolled at NIOS SIOS, financial support will be provided to the state UTs for transferring it to the NIOS SIOS as per the norms of the scheme, so that the enrolled children do not have to bear the cost of undertaking the course certification etc. 4.4.11 Samagra Shiksha aims at 100% retention from preschool to senior secondary level. Considering the mandate of the scheme, it will be required that all the relevant information of the identified out-of-school children is maintained systematically so that tracking and monitoring of all out-of-school children is possible. The state UTs are suggested to use 59 PAGA Information Technology for maintaining these records of children. Several states have already developed web-enabled apps, online portals and other systems for maintaining a robust database of all out-of-school children. The Department of School Education, Ministry of Education, has developed an online module for compiling the data of out-of-school children identified by each state or union territory on Prabandh portal. Web links. All special training centers (STC) shall be mapped and assign a unique ID to help the states UTs identify the capacity and trends of the OOSC coverage by a particular STC. In addition, mapping of OOSC with special training center on the basis of duration and type of the training etc. shall also be updated on the portal. The child-wise information of the identified out-of-school children and other details such information on special training centers, attendance of children, status of mainstreaming, registration of children in NIOS SIOS etc. shall be uploaded at block level by the Block Resource Coordinator of the concerned Block Resource Center (BRC). The uploaded data would be validated by the district magistrate or an appropriate officer is authorized by the DM/DC at the district level. This validated data would be viewed and locked at state level. A password-protected provision is already created on the portal for the district magistrates, his signatories for every district and for all states, UTs at State Project Office SPO level to view, validate and monitor the information about out-of-school children. All states, UTs are also required to mandatorily update all the required information pertaining to out-of-school children on PRABANDH portal on quarterly basis, which should be duly validated at district level and viewed at state level. 4.5 Strengthening infrastructure and other in-school provisions. Samagra Shiksha supports strengthening of all types of schools including elementary, secondary and senior secondary schools. Access to school is not confined to mere availability of school units but making the school functional and effective by making infrastructure and in-school provisions as per norms and standards. A fully equipped school is expected to attract and retain children till their completion of education. 4.5.1 Strengthening of infrastructure. Samagra Shiksha scheme supports creation and strengthening of infrastructure facilities both through direct program funding and also in convergence with other relevant schemes of the central and state governments. At the elementary level, the Schedule 2 RTE Act lays down the norms and standards for a school and provides that a school with an all-weather building should consist of the following: at least one classroom for every teacher, an office cum store cum hum room, barrier-free access, separate toilets for boys and girls, safe and adequate drinking water facility to all children, a kitchen where midday meal is cooked in the school, 60 PAGA, playground, arrangements for securing the school building by boundary wall or green fencing, a library in each school providing newspapers, magazines and books on all subjects, including story books, play material, games and sports equipment. The RTE Act also lays down that the appropriate government and local authority defined in the Act shall ensure availability of a neighborhood school and shall have the duty to provide infrastructure including school. Building and ensure good quality elementary education conforming to the standards and norms specified in the schedule. Important interventions for strengthening school infrastructure are as follows: the building plan to mandatorily include rainwater harvesting and barrier-free access. All proposals for strengthening of existing schools must contain a non-negotiable component of convergence with provisions of various other ministries, such as playgrounds, boundary walls, electrification, maintenance of toilets, solar panel, ramps and handrails, etc. Filling in gaps in infrastructure for strengthening of government elementary, secondary and higher secondary schools. While planning for strengthening of existing schools, the gap assessment exercise for all the schools may be carried out through UDISE plus data and school mapping exercise followed by school development plan. Since the gap would be huge which cannot be addressed in a single year, it is necessary that long-term perspective plan be prepared keeping in view the expected enrollment. Construction of additional sections in higher secondary schools may be proposed on the basis of demand and requirements. In this regard, the district state teams will have to work out a staggered plan on certain defined prioritization criteria. Major repair of the school building more than 10 years old will be supported by estimates and photographs. It is also mentioned that the school building constructed within the past 10 years will not be considered for major repairs, except in case of severe damages due to natural calamities. Repairs of dysfunctional toilets and drinking water facilities. Pre-repair and post-repair photographs need to be included in the proposal and also uploaded online. Establishment and strengthening residential quarters for teachers, especially female teachers in sparsely populated hilly and densely forested areas with difficult geographical terrain and border areas where a new primary or upper primary and senior secondary schools may not be viable. Construction of new Diets Block Resource Center (BRC) Cluster Resource Center (CRC) buildings and strengthening of existing Diet (BRC) CRC buildings as per norms. Construction upgradation of Kasturba Gandhi Balika Vidyalaya KGBV buildings. Strengthening of existing residential facilities. The gap assessment of infrastructure in existing residential schools hostels may be carried out through UDICE Plus and School Development Plan SDP. In case of damage of school building due to natural hazards like cyclone, flood, landslide, fire etc. shall be evaluated based on estimates, photos and certificate from competent engineer irrespective of year of construction. The school infrastructure under Samagra Shiksha has been conceptualized with the overall 61 PAGA. Developmental goal of raising the performance of the school education sector following a strategy of supporting interventions for school effectiveness and sustainable institutional capacity. The scheme envisages the school as a continuum from primary, upper primary, secondary to senior secondary levels. This will smoothen the transition rates across the various levels of school education and aid in promoting universal access to children to complete school education. Also, it will aid in optimum utilization and sharing of school infrastructure and other resources. A whole school approach may be taken while developing the proposal for strengthening of schools. In other words, the strategy should be to fill in all infrastructure gaps of a certain number of schools in a district in a financial year and move on to another set of schools in the next financial year. The list of schools conforming to the minimum standards after strengthening their infrastructure, teaching and non-teaching staff may be provided in the state UT proposal for monitoring and appraisal for a given financial year. While developing the proposal for strengthening of infrastructure, the schools hostels with maximum deficit in infrastructure and manpower should be taken up first. Similarly, existing schools may be sorted in ascending order on the basis of gaps in infrastructure and manpower. While appraising the state UT proposal for strengthening, UDICE Plus data which provides unique IDs of schools may be used to track schools conforming to minimum standards in infrastructure and staffing as reported by states UTs in their proposals. Preference for various interventions is being given to educationally backward blocks EBS LWE affected districts, special focus districts SFDs and the 117 aspirational districts. Further, at the aggregate national level, 50% of the proposed physical targets including new schools, strengthening, ICT in schools and vocational education shall be from northeastern states, LWE affected districts, island territories and other backward areas. Key programmatic norms related to this intervention have been given in Programmatic and Financial Norms, Samagra Shiksha, at Appendix. Norms, standards, procedures and guidelines for undertaking civil works for strengthening school infrastructure have been provided in the Civil Works chapter. 4.6 Provisioning and managing teaching staff. Every child deserves access to a quality education, and teaching is a core determinant of students' educational experience. In the face of COVID-19 pandemic, it has become more important now than ever before to ensure that students have access to qualified teachers, so that children may complete their education and achieve desired competencies. Samagra Shiksha recognizes the importance of sufficient number of trained teachers in schools. Further, for smooth functioning of schools, it is desirable that all sanctioned positions of teachers are filled up on priority basis and existing teachers' deployment is rationalized so that all schools meet the desired PTR norms. At elementary level, the RTE Act, 2009 lays down that the prescribed pupil-teacher ratio PTR to be maintained for each school. It also recognizes the need for subject-specific teachers, head teachers and part-time instructors for art, health and work education in upper 62 PAGA. Primary schools is summarized in the following table. Suggestive norms and standard for a primary and upper primary school. Item norms and standards as per the Schedule C Section 19 and 25 of RTE Act. For 1st class to 5th class. Up to 60 children 2 teachers between 61 to 90 children 3 teachers between 91 to 120 children 4 teachers between 121 to 200 children 5 teachers above 150 children 5 teachers plus 1 head teacher above 200 children. Pupil teacher ratio shall not exceed 40. For 6th class to 8th class. 1 teacher per class so that there shall be at least 1 teacher each for science and mathematics social studies, language 1 teacher for every 35 children above 100 children a full-time head teacher and part-time instructor for art education health and physical education and work education. At the secondary level, it is required that subject-specific teachers are available in all schools. Teachers should be recruited as per the norms prescribed by NCT appropriate authority in the terms and conditions of the respective state and UTs. The scheme visualizes a minimum of 5 subject-specific teachers and 1 head teacher for every new upgraded secondary school as per following table. Suggestive norms and standard for a new upgraded secondary school. Item norms and standards. for 9th class to 10th class. Up to 160 children, 5 subject teachers for different subjects plus 1 head teacher. Above 160 children, pupil-teacher ratio shall not exceed 40. Other than subject teachers, part-time teachers for art and craft education, e-health and physical education, and e-counselor. At the higher secondary level also, it is required that subject-specific teachers are available in all schools. Teachers should be recruited as per the norms prescribed by NCTE appropriate authority in the terms and conditions of the respective state and UTs. The scheme visualizes a minimum of 6 subject-specific postgraduate PG teachers and 1 principal for every new upgraded higher secondary school section and addition of every teacher as per section as per following table. Suggestive norms and standard for a new upgraded higher secondary school section. For 11th class to 12th class. Up to 240 children, 6 subject teachers for different subjects plus 1 principal for a school offering a single subject combination of study. Above 240 children, 10 subject teachers for different subjects plus 1 principal for a school offering 2 subject combinations of study. 63 PAGA. Above 360 children, 12 subject teachers for different subjects plus 1 principal for a school offering 3 subject combinations of study. Above 360 children, pupil-teacher ratio shall not exceed 30. Other than subject teachers, part-time teachers for art and craft education, e-health and physical education, and e-counselor. The recruitment and other service matters of teachers are under the domain of state UT governments. Under Samagra Shiksha, for new upgraded schools, specific teachers' posts are not sanctioned. Instead, a lump sum grant is provided for new upgraded schools for meeting various expenses, as per different norms for different categories of schools, as per programmatic norms given at Appendix. However, the states are expected to ensure that all new upgraded schools are properly staffed, without shifting of staff posts from other schools. If there is a shortfall in the same, the lump sum grant can be proportionately reduced. 4.7 Reducing social and economic disparities in access. Equity is a cross-cutting theme and critical component, which sits in all interventions related to access and retention. Equity does not mean only equal opportunity, but also creation of conditions in which the disadvantaged sections of the society, children of SC, ST, minority, landless agricultural workers and children with special needs, etc., can avail the opportunity. School access demands addressing all exclusionary practices in school education, especially those based on caste, religion, gender and special needs etc. Access will not, therefore, be confined to ensuring that a school becomes accessible to children within specified distance but implies an understanding of the educational needs and predicament of the traditionally excluded categories like SCs, STs, certain ethnic and minority groups, disadvantaged groups, girls, and children with special needs. Equitable access means to also address the needs and requirement of other disadvantaged categories of children such as migrant children, urban deprived children, child labor, street children, children whose families are engaged in stigmatized professions, displaced and homeless children, children without adult protection, children affected by left-wing extremism, LWE internal strife, transgender, children affected by violence and all other categories who would require additional support for accessing and completing school education. Samagra Shiksha considers the equity component as critical in engineering and sustaining developments in school education. The suggested key strategic options for promoting equity and inclusion in school education is envisaged are putting in place positive discrimination and a structure of financial and other non-financial incentives through synergy building in the implementation of strategic interventions on the basis of sector diagnosis, particularly focusing on characteristics of the school demographics to reduce cumulative disadvantages in access and retention by reducing social and economic distances. And deepening decentralization practices by creating 64 PAGA. School complex is envisaged in the NEP 2020. Samagra Shiksha would support state and UTs in implementing strategic and innovative interventions to address social, economic and educational disadvantages of children in school education. These strategies are presented in the following sections. 4.7.1 Synergy building in the implementation of strategies. For providing effective and equitable access at state, district, community and school levels, greater linkage and coordination is needed among different departments at state and district level, different stakeholders and different academic institutions. The possible linkages and convergences with the different ministries and departments, local specific existing resources, capacities of different academic institutions, involvement of different stakeholders i.e., community, parents, teachers, SMDC members, Panchayati Raj members and NGOs, etc. Should be explored in planning and implementation of strategies for education of SCs, STs, minorities, girls, CWSN, so that better outcomes can be achieved by optimum utilization of funds. 4.7.2 Creating school complexes for efficient sharing of resources. Creating school complexes for efficient and equitable sharing of resources and effective decentralized governance of school education is one of the key recommendations of the NEP 2020. According to the NEP 2020, the objectives of undertaking this intervention are ensuring the following: adequate number of teachers shared or otherwise for teaching all subjects including art, music, science, sports, languages, vocational subjects, etc. Adequate resources shared or otherwise such as a library, science labs, computer labs, skill labs, playgrounds, sports equipment and facilities, etc. Creating a sense of community to overcome the isolation of teachers, students, and schools through joint professional development programs, sharing of teaching learning content, joint content development, holding joint activities such as art and science exhibitions, sports meets, quizzes and debates, and fairs. Cooperation and support across schools for the education of children with disabilities. And improved governance of the schooling system by devolving all final decisions to principals, teachers, and other stakeholders within each group of schools and treating such a group of schools, which range from the foundational stage through the secondary stage, as an integrated semi-autonomous unit. Para 5.10 of NEP states as follows: state UT governments may adopt innovative formats, such as school complex, rationalization of schools, without in any way reducing accessibility, for effective school governance, resource sharing, and community building. Samagra Shiksha, therefore, considers creating school complexes as a strategic intervention for promoting equitable access to school education. The related programmatic norms and other institutional arrangements need to be developed and finalized in consultation with states, UTs. 65 PAGA. 4.8 Improving retention and completion rates. Provision of schooling facilities on universal basis essentially demands participation and retention of children. School access is not merely physical access within a notified distance, but also participation and retention of children. Improving retention and student flow grade progression in school education is a necessary condition for reducing wastage and improving efficiency of school education system. However, mere provision of schooling facility is insufficient to ensure that all children attend school and participate in the learning process. The school may be there, but children may not attend. They may drop out after a few months, or may be absent too many days and cannot cope with the learning load. Hence, there is the need for special efforts to bring these children to school and retain them, especially girls and children from disadvantaged sections, up to secondary level. Therefore, Samagra Shiksha recognizes the critical importance of improvements in the internal efficiency of school education measured in terms of improved student flow rates like grade promotion, repetition and dropout rates, stage transition rates, and completion rates in school education. Accordingly, Samagra Shiksha supports strategic and innovative interventions for improving promotion and completion rates and reducing dropout and repletion rates. While exploring a broad set of strategic options to deal with challenges for improving retention in school education, the following suggested strategic interventions may be considered by states, UTs. 4.8.1 Tracking and reporting schooling status of children. This would require a proper identification of children who are out of school in the course of micro-planning. It will require tracking of all children in the school education system. The state and UT may track the schooling status of these students through UDICE+. The student-wise data from grade AK to grade 12 which can grow as a child tracking system will be collected and maintained by the respective state and UTs. Vidya Samiksha Kendra VSK will be set up at national and state levels. This aims at leveraging data and technology to bring a big leap in learning outcomes. VSK will include student registry and school registry which will bring synergy to the work being done in the ecosystem by integrating data from different datasets and empowers students, teachers, and parents to bridge the gap. It will help to keep track of enrolled students, learning at home, dropouts, information on child labor mainstreamed, student learning, registries, out-of-school children, support required by teachers and schools, etc. In addition, the system will also monitor the real-time status towards various projects, components, activities, grievance redressal mechanism under the ambit of school education. 66 PAGA. 4.8.2 Promoting evidence-based management of student flow by identifying factors contributing to dropouts and grade repetitions through research and evaluation studies. Research-based approaches to identifying potential dropouts and reasons of dropouts at all stages of school education are critical in designing appropriate interventions to improve retention in school education. Data, empirical evidence-driven strategies, interventions and activities are critically relevant for addressing the effects of adverse socioeconomic and household factors as well as school-related factors on retention of children in school education. Towards this objective, more and more research and evaluation studies need to be undertaken in school education. 4.8.3 A set of targeted interventions for improving retention and school completion rates of disadvantaged children and children with special needs. Education of children with special needs (CWSNs) is a major concern under Samagra Shiksha. The major challenge in education of children with special needs is not only identification and assessment of CWSN but also retaining them in the education system. As a wide range of educational facilities have been provided to CWSN, still states UTs need to develop effective strategies to address their issues, as per their needs. The implementation strategy has been detailed out in a separate chapter on children with special needs. 4.8.4 Involvement of different stakeholders in the education system. It also calls for involving women, SC, ST, OBC and minorities through participatory processes in the effective management of schools. Special interventions should be designed to address learning needs of children from these communities and relating education to their life. The state governments are expected to design specific interventions to bring them in the educational process. 4.9 Convergence. Samagra Shiksha emphasizes for convergence and coordination with schemes of various other ministries, departments, other ministries and state governments. The scheme will have effective convergence architecture with various ministries, developmental agencies of the center and state governments. Such convergence would be ensured at the time of preparation and approval of the proposals for annual work plan and budgets AWP&B to avoid overlapping in coverage. The PAB for approval of AWP&B would have representatives of the relevant ministries and states to strengthen convergent action. Other schemes which would contribute to the objective of universal access and retention of Samagra Shiksha are as below. Preschool education through the Anganwadi centers under the umbrella Integrated Child Development Scheme ICDS. Residential facilities for SC and ST children by the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment and Ministry of Tribal Affairs. Scheme of Assistance to Disabled Persons for Purchase Fitting of AIDS Appliances ADIP Scheme and Scheme for Implementation of Persons with Disabilities Act 1995 SIPDA by Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. 67 PAGA. Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana PMKVY of Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship MOSDE. Mapping of other available incentives to induce access and retention of children, books, uniform, bags, awards, scholarships, and other benefits, etc. National Rural Drinking Water Program and Swachh Bharat Mission for providing toilets and drinking water facilities. MGNREGA guidelines provides for construction of playfields and compound walls for government-run schools in the villages. Reference, Gazette of India No. Rugged. No. DL 33004/99 dated 28 March 2017 issued by Ministry of Rural Development. Notification. Resources will be mobilized for meeting the labor component of construction of school infrastructure in rural areas. Multi-Sector Development Program MSDP of the Ministry of Minority Affairs may be used for infrastructural development in minority-dominated areas. Khelo India of Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports may be tapped for a significant portion of the sport and physical education component. Joint mapping of facilities established under Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya National Mission on Teachers and Teaching PMMMNMTT and Central University Scheme of Mo Dohe and Dosanel. Provision of scholarship and incentive schemes provided by different department for marginalized groups. It includes schemes under Ministry of Minority Affairs web links or pre-matric scholarship, post-matric scholarship scheme or merit cum means scholarship scheme. Schemes under Social Justice and Empowerment. Web links. Pre-matric scholarship to OBC for studies in India. Post-matric scholarship for OBC students. Dr. Ambedkar pre-matric and post-matric scholarship for DNTs. Dr. Ambedkar post-matric scholarship for EBCs. National Fellowship for OBC students NFOBC. Pre-matric scholarship to the SC students studying in classes IX and X. Pre-matric scholarships to the children of those engaged in occupations involving cleaning and prone to health hazards. Post-matric scholarship for SC students. Central sector scholarship of top class education for SC students. National Overseas Scholarship 68 PAGA. National Fellowship for Scheduled Caste Students. Free coaching scheme for SC and OBC students. Free coaching scheme for SC and OBC students. Pre-matric scholarship for OBC students. Free coaching scheme for SC and OBC students. Scholarships for higher education for young achievers scheme Shreyas OBC and others 2021-22 to 2025-26. Schemes under Ministry of Education. National Merit Cum Means Scholarship Scheme. B. Department of School Education and Literacy, Ministry of Education. To know more information, log in National Means Cum Merit Scholarship Scheme, School Education and Literacy. The state plans should clearly indicate the areas of convergence with other schemes, including details of infrastructure development and funds to be availed under these schemes. 4.10 Programmatic and Financial Norms and KPIs. The planning, implementation and monitoring mechanism of the interventions under Samagra Shiksha needs to be decentralized and integrated, which should consider school education as a continuum. Besides, a systemic or sector-wide approach needs to be adopted in planning interventions by prioritizing critical development concerns. Goal and targets need to be articulated in a smart, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant and time-based fashion in the plan documents. The logic of proposed interventions and the expected results of such interventions may be clearly articulated in the plan documents. Extensive use of data from UDISE+, NAS, Census of India, publications of the MOSP including NSS reports and other sources may be used in school education sector studies and in providing the logic of program proposals. To ensure smooth implementation of the integrated schemes and to guide its stakeholders, the planning and appraisal manual will be shared with the state and UTs. The programmatic and financial norms and related KPIs have been given at Appendix. However, additional norms and KPIs for facilitating planning, appraisal, monitoring and performance evaluation of these components of Samagra Shiksha can be provided in the Planning and Appraisal Manual separately. 69 PAGA. Chapter 5 Civil Works. Samagra Shiksha scheme supports creation and strengthening of infrastructure facilities both through direct program funding and also in convergence with other relevant schemes of the central and state government departments. Civil works components under direct program funding are construction of new schools and infrastructure for additional streams, strengthening the existing infrastructure facilities, major and minor repair, teacher quarters, residential schools and hostels, Kasturba Gandhi Balika Vidyalaya KGBV, teacher educational institutes such as State Council of Educational Research and Training SCERT, District Institute of Education and Training DIET etc. and other related infrastructures facilities for school education. The states and union territories prepare annual work plan and budget AWP&B based on their requirements and priority and guidelines issued by the Ministry of Education. The states and union territories are required to bring a single plan for entire school education sector integrating elementary, secondary and senior secondary level, KGBVs, teacher education institutes such as SCERT, DIETs etc. under the scheme relating to civil works. These plans are then appraised and approved estimated by Project Approval Board PAB in consultation with the states and union territories as per the programmatic and financial norms of the scheme, physical and financial progress of works sanctioned earlier and availability of budgetary resources. School-wise approved civil work components are uploaded in Project Appraisal Budgeting Achievement and Data Handling System PRABANDH portal to monitor the progress of works online on real-time basis. The states and union territories shall update the physical and financial progress of each work at school level, district level and state level. In order to ensure completion of civil works in time, central financial assistance for spillover will be provided for 3 years and maximum up to 5 years subject to approval of the PAB, and in case the approved works are not completed in the above-mentioned time frame, it will become the sole responsibility of the respective state UT to complete the pending works. For civil works approved prior to 2021, the time limit of 3 years will be calculated from 2021. The spillover civil works components approved in PAB are also be updated on PRABANDH portal for monitoring the progress. 5.1 Developing Civil Works Plan. As per NEP 2020, planning should be need-based and responsive to the ground realities, e.g. regarding land areas and room sizes, practicalities of playgrounds in urban areas etc. There will be suitable flexibility for each school to make its own decisions based on local needs and constraints, while ensuring safety, security, and a pleasant and conducive learning space. Planning of civil works components is a holistic exercise of developing the school building along with its indoor and outdoor spaces to promote universal access, retention, equity and 70 PAGA. Quality. The civil works in school will have to be well thought out physical learning environments and seen as integrated systems. 5.1.1 School Development Plan SDP is a combination of educational plan that guides the infrastructure plan and its effective usage in the learning processes. SDP has to reflect the educational vision of a school in ways to achieve it. It is a master plan and base document for schools' educational development as well as infrastructure work along with its development in phases. Its planning is seen as an evolving process rather than one-time activity. MORD has developed a portal for uploading all GPDPs. Under Samagra Siksha, a format for uploading SDPs will be developed and uploaded on PRABANDH. The school is envisioned as an inclusive and pedagogically rich, sustainable ecosystem, safe and secure from hazards, incorporating elements of green building norms, optimum resource utilization through culturally and environmentally sustainable practices. The guiding principles for school development plan are: infrastructure plan to follow the education plan. Child-centered planning with overall development of child physical, social, emotional and cognitive addressed. Responsive towards needs of all children and the diversity they bring in a school. Entire school space indoor and outdoor as learning continuum for a child and the teacher, this is to be recognized by all stakeholders while planning. Developing the entire school space as resource for fun and learning activities using ideas of building as learning aid BALA. A safe and secure environment for all children. Clean and hygienic environment for all children. Maximizing the whole school as a resource not just for children and teachers of that school but also for the community and neighborhood schools. Respectful towards the local context and tradition, wisdom, social needs, educational needs, culture, geology, climate, flora fauna, etc. Optimum resource utilization and cost effectiveness. Integrates good practices in environmentally sustainable designs to demonstrate and practice them. Adopting user-friendly new technology for overall development of the school premises. Overall planning to be aligned with the population trends in catchment area. Scope for future expansion. In planning and design of schools and also in construction, it should be ensured that measures to strengthen the environment, health and safety practices are included in accordance with the guidelines contained in Environmental Management Framework for Secondary Schools issued by Ministry of Education, Making Schools Safe and Secure issued by Ministry of 71 PAGA. Education, School Safety Policy Guidelines issued by National Disaster Management Authority NDMA State and local bylaws of the statutory authorities and School Safety Guidelines issued by Ministry of Education from time to time. 5.2 Civil Works Planning Process. The planning process of civil works under Samagra Siksha involves the following steps. Augmentation of existing school infrastructure would require a survey of existing facilities in every school. Such a survey can be undertaken with community participation, facilitated by the School Management Committee SMC, School Management Development Committee SDMC, etc. Engineers, architects may also be included in these joint surveys. This is necessary for a clear identification of school-wise gaps in infrastructure facilities. The gap needs to be updated in UDISE Plus database. The Panchayati Raj institutions needs to be involved in planning process of civil works. The infrastructure gaps as per UDISE Plus shall be considered for further planning at district level and state level. Once the gaps are identified, criteria for prioritization need to be developed at district level. The criteria for prioritization may vary from district to district and finalized in consultation with all stakeholders. Convergence with other central and state government schemes is an important consideration while planning for the infrastructural requirements. Various sources of funding, the tentative amount that will be available from these sources and the facilities that can be provided through these funds needs to be clearly identified and net requirements to be worked out. Corporate Social Responsibility (CSR) funding at district level may be identified and discounted from the proposal submitted for central funding under Samagra Siksha. The district-wise planning to be finalized taking into account the existing pending civil works. School-wise list of civil works in progress and works not started to be thoroughly evaluated. Priority to be given to complete the ongoing works before starting new works. The district-wise planning also needs to evaluate the not started works since long. The engineering input such as workability of approved unit cost, site constraints, availability of land etc. to be considered and appropriate decision may be taken. After thorough evaluation, the works which are not required and works not viable should be proposed for surrender. Evaluation of school-wise outstanding advances and action taken for its utilization is a critical factor in district-wise planning. The schools where outstanding advances for civil work are lying unutilized since long may be completed on topmost priority. In case it is not feasible to take up the work, the advance may be refunded. The states UTs shall compile the district-wise proposal and submit consolidated plan after updating the data as per the priority and requirements. The state proposal needs to be approved by Executive Committee before final submission. 72 PAGA 5.3 Appraisal of Civil Works Components. The district-wise plan along with state plan after approval of Executive Committee shall be submitted online on PRABANDH portal within the scheduled time period. 5.3.1 Submission Details. School-wise civil works proposed for strengthening along with name of schools, UDISE code, name of districts, blocks, type of management, enrollment details, etc. are to be uploaded. The model tables related to civil work components such as overall progress, status of fresh and spillover approved in previous years, action taken report on commitment, school safety provision, third-party evaluation, convergence details, utilization of CSR fund if any, details of technical personnel engaged, details of utilization of fund under SAP Swachhata Action Plan etc. shall be duly filled and uploaded. The state's duties to submit basic data for proposed civil work components such as detailed estimate, drawings, SAW, analysis of rates, report accompanying estimates. 5.3.2 Essential Documents. Civil works components proposed by the state's UTs shall include the following essential documents. Land Availability Certificate for new construction site. Land Availability Certificate from Revenue Officer not below the rank of Tahsildar is to be submitted in case of construction proposed at a new site. The certificate should include sketches showing area allotted, details adjacent plots, approach road details. In case of strengthening, certificate from the headmaster principal is required for availability of land. Vertical extension A. Vertical extension over existing building proposed if any needs to be accompanied by detailed design calculation of the existing structure including the new extension. B. Detailed structural drawings of the existing building along with extended portion for columns, beams, slab, footing details etc. to be submitted. C. Details of existing services along with proposed new services such as sewerage, drainage, water supply and electrification etc. to be submitted. D. Certificate from the structural engineer regarding the design as safe and design finalized as per relevant BIS code. Unit cost. In order to finalize the unit cost, the state's duties to submit the following. A. Detailed estimate in Excel sheet. Estimate submitted in PDF format will not be accepted. B. State schedule of rates along with notification for increase of SAW rates if any. C. Analysis of rates for non-scheduled items. D. Drawings showing key site plan with layout of the building and other ancillary existing structures, detailed plan, elevation and section etc. E. Detailed design-based report showing basis of design, scope of works, time of completion, mode of execution etc. Complete. 73 PAGA 5.4 Civil works components supported under Samagra Shiksha. School building for new schools. School building for new schools opened as per requirement based on GIS mapping and UDISE plus data including buildings for building-less school running elsewhere. B. Upgradation of existing schools. The building required for upgradation of schools from pre-primary to senior secondary level. C. Strengthening of infrastructure in existing school. The strengthening of infrastructure in existing schools includes provision for construction of additional classrooms based on enrollment, library, laboratories such as integrated science lab, math lab, physics lab, chemistry lab and biology labs, computer room, art craft culture room, laboratory workshop for vocational education in hub schools, separate toilets for boys, girls and children with special needs, CWSN, safe drinking water, electrification, kitchen shed, ramps with hand railing, furniture, laboratory equipment, headmaster principal room, office common room, building as learning aid, bala, hand washing stations, water purifier, fire extinguisher, kitchen garden fencing, playground, boundary wall fencing with gate, rainwater harvesting, solar panel electrification etc. As per requirement based on availability, adequacy and functionality of existing infrastructure. D. Major repairs. Schools building constructed within the past 10 years will not be considered for major repairs. Also, the cost of repairs to be undertaken should be less than about 30% of the reconstruction cost. Repairs to dysfunctional toilets and drinking water facilities will form a part of this component. On-site technical supervision by professionally qualified engineering personnel is to be ensured during execution of repair works. The repair works needs to be carried out without disturbing the structural parts. Pre-repair and post-repair photos indicating UDISE code and name of schools to be uploaded on PRABANDH portal. In case of damage of school building due to natural hazards like cyclone, flood, landslide, fire etc. shall be evaluated based on estimates, photos and certificate from competent engineer irrespective of year of construction. Minor repairs such as repair to surface cracks of walls and floors, spalling of concrete, fading of painting surfaces, broken tiles in toilets and laboratories etc. need to be undertaken on priority without allowing further deterioration leading to the structured services dysfunctional. Fund available from composite school grants, community participation and alternate resources may be used for minor repair. Timely action preventive maintenance will not only prevent the structured services to collapse but also helpful to maintain pleasant environment for teaching and learning. 8 teachers' quarters are required for teachers, especially female teachers in sparsely populated or hilly and densely forested areas with difficult geographical terrain and border areas. Preference will be given to educationally backward blocks, left-wing extremism, LWE affected districts, special focus districts, SFD and the aspirational districts. As far as possible, quarters may be built as residential cluster and near to the schools. The area of teachers' quarter should be Type 2 quarter as per CPWD plinth area norms. Residential schools and hostels. There are certain areas in the country where it is unviable to set up schools. These include sparsely populated or hilly and densely forested areas with difficult geographical terrains. There are also densely populated urban areas, where it is difficult to get land for establishing schools. Also, in urban areas there are a number of urban deprived children, homeless and street children in difficult circumstances, 74 PAGA. Without adult protection, who require not merely day schooling facilities, but also lodging and boarding facilities. Residential schools, hostels can be built for children as per KGBV norms. Preference will be given to educationally backward blocks, left-wing extremism, LWE affected districts, special focus districts, SFD and the aspirational districts. G. Kasturba Gandhi Balika Vidyalaya KGBV. KGBVs provide residential schools in educationally backward blocks and aspirational districts from upper primary level to senior secondary for girls belonging predominantly to the SC, ST, OBC and minority communities. There are 4 models of KGBV schools. The states will develop their own innovative designs for KGBV buildings. New construction and expansion of Kasturba Gandhi Balika Vidyalaya KGBV buildings including strengthening of existing building, compound wall, guard rooms etc. can be taken up. The plinth area for 50 girls hostel, 100 girls hostel and 200 girls hostel will be 8,300 SQFT, 11,300 SQFT and 20,790 SQFT respectively. Major and minor repair of the building more than 10 years old need to be supported by estimates and photographs. Teachers education institutions, new construction and expansion of SCERTs, diets, BITES BRC, CRC buildings as per norms. Major and minor repair of the building more than 10 years old need to be supported by estimates and photographs. At spillover works, the priority will be given by the state and UTs to complete the spillover works. 5.5 Design and Specification Standards 5.5.1 Child-friendly school environment. Creating a child-friendly school environment should be the focus of the civil work interventions. Following points to be kept in view while finalizing basic design and specification. The school should be located in a land that is non-hazardous, not low-lying area. too close to highway, railway track, river or pond, water bodies, underneath high-tension electric lines etc. And should be easily accessible. The site should be located preferably be at a quiet place away from places generating noise and pollution such as cinemas, factories and shopping center etc. The design of the school building should be eco-friendly, functional and attractive. The interior of the classroom should have adequate light and ventilation and space for storage, display and chalkboards. Barrier-free access like ramp, handrails etc. are to be kept mandatory. Provisions for functional separate toilets for boys and girls, CWSN toilets, adequate drinking water, electrification, rainwater harvesting, boundary wall and playgrounds. Provision for efficient solid and liquid waste management. The school campus should ensure a good natural drainage to be kept it clean, hygienic and free from water logging. Safe and secure environment for the children need to be ensured. 5.5.2 BIS Code, the National Building Code NBC 2016, developed by the Bureau of Indian Standards BIS provides guidelines for regulating building construction activities across the country. It serves as a model code for adoption by all agencies involved in building construction works, be they public works departments, other government construction departments, local bodies or private construction agencies. The code should serve as a 75 PAGA reference for all state MUTs, for design, planning, preparation and execution of school infrastructure components. This requirement does not preclude the use of local construction design, materials and practices. These may be adapted suitably to incorporate especially the requirements in the NBC regarding structural safety and also adhere to other specifications regarding, for instance, the minimum space required for each child in the classroom. The relevant BIS codes is amended from time to time to be referred for school infrastructure. S. No Code Functional Area 1 is 1893 Part 1-2002 Criteria for Earthquake-Resistant Design of Structure 2 is 43261993 Practice for Earthquake-Resistant Design and Construction Building 3 is 138281993 Guidelines for Improving Earthquake-Resistant of Low Strength Masonry Buildings 4 is 139201993 Ductile Detailing of Reinforced Concrete Structure Subject to Seismic Forces 5 is 139352009 Seismic Evaluation, Repair and Strengthening of Masonry Building Guidelines 6 is 456 2000 Structural Design of Buildings 7 is 144351997 Code of Practice of Fire Safety as Educational Institutions 8 is 24401975 Guide for Day Lighting of Building 9 is 4963-1987 Recommendation of Building and Facilities for Physically Handicapped 10 is 7662 Part 1 1974 Recommendation of Orientation of Buildings 11 is 4837-1990 School Furniture, Classroom Chair and Tables Recommendation 12 is 4838-1990 Anthropometrics Dimensions for School Children Age Group 5 to 17 years 13 is 8827-1978 Recommendation for Basic Requirements of School Buildings 14 is 15183 Part 1, 2 and 3 2002 Guidelines for Maintenance Management of Building 15 Energy Conservation Building Code ECBC 2007 for Energy Conservation in Buildings 5.5.3 Classrooms, the basic unit of a school is classroom. The classrooms, apart from satisfying the minimum requirement of space, fittings and furniture, shall be designed to meet adequate functional and environmental requirements. However, to determine the appropriateness of physical spaces, the following norms may be considered. No. Category Gross Area of Classroom 1 Preschool 2.00 SQ. M per child 2 Primary School with Furniture 1.11 SQ. M per child 3 Primary School with Squatting 0.74 SQ. M per child 4 Secondary Senior Secondary 1.26 SQ. M per child 76 PAGA. 5.5.4 Library, Art and Culture Room, Computer Rooms and Laboratories. Library, Art and Culture Room, Computer Rooms and Laboratories such as Integrated Science Lab, Math Lab, Physics Lab, Chemistry Lab and Biology Labs etc. shall be designed as per dimensions given in BIS 8827 latest edition. The unit cost shall include cost of furniture, electrification. Lab equipment shall be provided separately. 5.5.5 Drinking water and toilets facilities. All schools should have minimum basic facilities such as adequate drinking water facilities for all children, boys' toilets, separate girls' toilets and toilets for CWSN. The dimension of toilets shall be finalized as per relevant BIS code considering the enrollment. Preference needs to be given for construction of toilets and drinking water supply in convergence with Department of Drinking Water and Sanitation, Department of Rural Development and PR. 5.5.6 Barrier-free access. Barrier-free access implies that the physical design of the school building should be such that all children, including children with disabilities, should be able to move in all areas of the school and use all the facilities provided. Children with disabilities should be able to enter the school building easily and negotiate their way around the school and be able to use the playgrounds, drinking water and toilet facilities, libraries and laboratories. States UTs will need to ensure that appropriate barrier-free features, keeping in view the different requirements of children with different disabilities, are incorporated in all new building designs. Existing school buildings will need to be modified for the purpose by creating ramps with handrails, toilet modifications, non-slip walking surfaces, etc. All external and internal facilities and services in the school will have to be reviewed to assess whether they allow access to children with disabilities. Apart from barrier-free access, features that enable learning in different spaces for such children, special furniture, display, learning boards and chalkboards that create inclusive situations for all children to be also promoted. For providing barrier-free access, it has to be ensured that the provisions contained in the Harmonized Guidelines and Space Standards for Barrier-Free Built Environment for Persons with Disability and Elderly Persons of the CPWD February 2016 are complied with along with relevant BIS code. 5.5.7 Child-friendly features. School building designs should, therefore, respond to the needs of children. Different facilities in the school should be built to the scale of the children, such as drinking water taps and urinals at different heights for children of different age groups heights. Children's chalkboards in classrooms at accessible height for children. Simple and usable display and storage spaces in the classrooms, child-friendly hardware fittings, spaces for children to interact and communicate with peer group, elder or younger children or adults, etc. 5.5.8 Safety features. States UTs will ensure that children receive education in a safe and secure environment. All school buildings under Samagra Siksha will provide safety features in the structural design of the school buildings in order to make the school buildings safe. Structural safety features against natural hazards such as earthquakes should be built into the designs of new school buildings and existing school buildings should be retrofitted. The various BIS codes for earthquake-resistant design and construction and the safety features incorporated in the National Building Code, 2016 should be followed during the construction of school buildings that are safe for children. In addition, the National Disaster Management 77 PAGA Guidelines on School Safety Policy, February 2016 issued by National Disaster Management Authority NDMA to be followed. The natural hazards such as floods, cyclones, landslide, fires, etc. against which appropriate safety should be ensured. 5.5.9 Retrofitting. Retrofitting is required to the existing buildings to make it hazard resistant, thermal comfort, better lighting and ventilation. Many such schools may need modification in openings or roofing, flooring, etc. to ensure better functionality of existing spaces from the perspective of adequate natural light, ventilation, thermal comfort, etc. Any such intervention will be less resource intensive than making a fresh. However, here again the most effective methods may be used for such adaptations under direct supervision of competent engineer. 5.5.10 Solar panel electrification. The electrification components under new construction upgradation of schools, residential schools, hostels, KGBVs, SCERT and diets etc. includes renewable energy like wind energy, solar energy etc. based on the proposal of the state after ensuring the viability. For installation of on-grid and off-grid rooftop solar installations, the area norms and financial norms as prescribed by Ministry of New and Renewable Energy MNRE is to be followed and same shall be implemented in convergence with MNRE. 5.5.11 Rainwater harvesting. Rainwater harvesting is the direct collection of rainwater, stored for direct use or recharge into the groundwater. The process involved collecting, storing and putting to use rooftop rainwater or filtering and recharge groundwater through percolation pits, open wells or bore wells etc. Use of rainwater for hand washing, flushing etc. can be done by storing suitably. Further, the excess rainwater can also be allowed for ground recharge. Rainwater harvesting is to be executed preferably as per CPWD specification and provision of relevant BIS codes. However, Rainwater Harvesting and Conservation Manual -2019, CPWD, Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs needs to be followed. Rainwater harvesting in school may be done through convergence with Ministry of Rural Development, Ministry of Jal Shakti and other central and state government departments. Other green features, to make all new constructions green patch kitchen garden to be developed compulsorily where land is available. If land not available, large pots to be used for adding greenery kitchen gardens. Paper recycling, paper shredders, segregated waste disposal system etc. So that children learn these habits early. 5.5.12 Playground and outdoor activities. Outdoor activities are important for overall child development. This may contain school garden, e.g. kitchen garden, herbal garden, tree groves, places of mutual interactions, sports and play spaces, etc. Construction of play fields and compound walls for government-run schools in the villages may be provided through MGNREGS Preference, Gazette of India No. Rugged. No. DL 33004/99 dated the 28th of March 2017 issued by Ministry of Rural Development under convergence with other GOVT departments and with community participation. The school playground shall be maintained through community mobilization, Shramdan or contribution or through convergence. 5.6 Unit cost for civil works components. 5.6.1 Samagra Siksha scheme provides for preparation of estimates on the basis of 78 PAGA. Prevailing state schedule of rates SSOR or CPWD rates whichever is lower. The state and UTs should ensure that area for preparation of cost estimates for civil and infrastructure facilities are based on Samagra Siksha norms, WIS 8827-1978 latest edition and or relevant standards. Local needs constraints if any may be taken into accounts to finalize the unit cost. While preparing the plan and estimates, element of pooling of resources through convergence, community participation, CSR funding etc. should be factored into the extent possible. 5.6.2 External services. External services such as approach road, sewerage, external electrical connections, external water supply connection, drainage etc. shall be provided by the state's UTs. 5.7 Execution of civil works. Construction activities are to be undertaken with community involvement. Planning by the community through SMC SDMC in all infrastructure development activities will be mandatory. All works costing up to Rs. 30 lakh may be executed by SMC SDMC. B. The civil works more than Rs. 30 lakh may be executed by inviting public tender as per latest CPWD Works Manual and state-owned works procedures. However, SMC SDMC to be involved in finalization of tender and execution of works at all stages. C. There will be complete transparency in all works undertaken under Samagra Siksha, especially those for school infrastructure development. The technical design, financial approvals, received and spent amounts, muster rolls, measurement books, books of accounts etc. in respect of the works shall be made available for perusal copies in accordance with the provisions of the Right to Information Act. In fact, proactive disclosure of this information in the meetings of the SMC SDMC and the entire Gram Sabha is encouraged. Besides regular financial audit as per extant rules, social audit will be undertaken to strengthen social accountability to the community which has a real and direct stake in a well-functioning school. The capacity building of SMC SMDC for undertaking building construction under Samagra Siksha is essential. Samagra Siksha encourages use of local construction materials and low-cost and environment-friendly technologies, without compromising on the structural soundness and safety of the building. The SMC SDMC will need to be trained in certain specific technical aspects such as collaborating in the development of drawings, understanding cost estimates, assessing building material quality, keeping accounts, material procurement etc. Training will also include aspects like payment of at least minimum wages, equal wages to women, no engagement of child labor, maintaining transparency about funds received and used through social audits, display boards etc. The training can be imparted in a simple and effective manner in the local language, through technical other experts. 5.8 Monitoring mechanism. A. For meeting the infrastructure requirements of new and existing schools within the defined timelines, sufficient number of technically qualified staff will need to be put in place at block, district and state level for assisting the SMC with technical drawings and estimates and for 79 PAGA. Quality supervision. States will need to evolve systems for communicating the specific requirements of school buildings, child-friendly design of classrooms and facilities, outdoor and indoor spaces to be developed as learning resources, safety and hazard-resistant features, barrier-free access, whole school planning etc. to the technical personnel. B. A design cell in the civil works unit at the state and district level is essential for school development plan. The unit must have design engineers, architects, structural engineers well conversant with earthquake-resistant designs and experts in energy efficiency, green buildings, experts from pedagogy, gender and inclusive education etc. who are well oriented on the philosophy of Samagra Shiksha. The experts can either be on deputation contract or on empanelment. C. To assure quality of civil works, an independent assessment of the technical quality of civil works through third-party evaluation (TPE) is mandatory. The commissioning of TPE to assure quality of construction, visit of TPE at plinth, lintel, and roofing at finishing level is essential. It should also ensure that construction has been carried out in accordance with design, drawings and specification. Besides checking the quality of building material by visual inspection, testing of building material and building technology, design functionality and role of community participation are ensured. The TPE is to highlight good practices, bring out strengths and weaknesses and share with the block, district, state level engineers and administrators in weekly and monthly meetings for further improvement. In addition, inbuilt quality control testers per BIS for building material and building technologies need to be undertaken by in-house engineering cell or agency supervising, facilitating technical support. These tests are essential particularly for major building like secondary, higher secondary schools, KGBVs, SCERTs, diets, hostels and residential schools. 5.9 Swachh Bharat Swachh Vidyalay. Ensuring adequate safe water in schools, well-maintained sanitation and hand-washing facilities and behavior is a critical part of SDGs and is known as water, sanitation and hygiene education (WASH) in schools. This strategy helps fulfill children's rights to health, education and participation, and has been widely recognized for its significant contribution to achieving the SDGs, particularly those related to providing access to primary education, improving water and sanitation, and promoting gender equality. WASH in schools not only promotes hygiene and increased access to quality education, but also supports national and local interventions to establish equitable, sustainable access to safe water and basic sanitation services in schools. A. Swachh Vidyalay initiative. Girls are particularly vulnerable to dropping out of school, partly because many are reluctant to continue their education when toilets and washing facilities are neither private nor safe or simply not available functional. The Government of India, therefore, launched the Swachh Vidyalay initiative in collaboration with state, UT governments, public sector undertakings and private corporate for provision of separate toilets for girls and boys in all government schools. Under this initiative, 4.17 lakh toilets including 1.91 lakh girls' toilets were constructed, made functional in 2.61 lakh government schools in 1 year period up to the 15th of August 2015. One of the most unique features of the Swachh Vidyalay was the role of the public sector undertakings and private corporates and online monitoring of progress. 80 PAGA. Under the Swachh Vidyalay initiative, state and UT governments have been requested to keep the toilets functional and take steps to create awareness about the benefits of hand washing, sanitation and hygiene among school children. State and UTs have been requested to take Mass Swachhta pledge and undertake cleanliness activities in schools through various activities like forming child cabinets, drawing, painting competitions etc. and to inculcate behavioral changes. Swachhta Pakhwadas are also organized to focus on sanitation and hygiene in schools. The Ministry of Panchayati Raj has advised the Panchayati Raj departments of all states to include the provision for construction of toilets and drinking water supply systems, rehabilitation and regular repair of existing toilets and drinking water systems in schools in the Gram Panchayat development plans to be prepared, converging resources under the 15th Finance Commission grants, Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme (MNREGS) and Swachh Bharat Mission. A joint letter from the Ministry of Drinking Water and Sanitation, Ministry of Panchayati Raj and Ministry of Education, Department of School Education and Literacy has been addressed to all state and UTs regarding inclusion of school infrastructure components in the Gram Panchayat Development Plan. Ministry of Panchayati Raj has also issued advisory in this regard. The state and UTs also should avail of supplementary funding through CSR contribution. B. Swachhata Action Plan. The norms for utilization of the composite school grant lays down that a minimum of 10% of the grant should be used for activities related to Swachhata Action Plan, namely, undertaking maintenance of school facilities including toilets, safe drinking water and for improvement in water, sanitation and hygiene, wash infrastructure, hand washing with soap, operations and maintenance, behavior change activities and capacity building etc. As per directions of the Ministry of Finance, a separate budget head is maintained in Ministry of Education for release of funds under Swachhata Action Plan. Swachhata Action Plan (SAP) should be based on credible analysis of existing situation, gap assessment and prioritization of intervention for better outcomes. Swachh Vidyalay Puraskar (SVP) program could form the basis for developing SAP. Based on the gap assessment through SVP scores, priority interventions shall be identified and resources shall be deployed to bridge the gap with the objective of every school participating in the SVP and progressing towards achieving the 5-star ratings as per the SVP indicators. See Swachh Vidyalay Puraskar. Ministry of Education has instituted Swachh Vidyalay Puraskar (SVP) in 2016 to recognize, inspire and celebrate excellence in water, sanitation and hygiene in schools. The explicit purpose of the award is to honor schools that have undertaken significant steps towards fulfilling the mandate of the Swachh Vidyalay campaign. SVP 2016-17 was open for government schools only and SVP 2017-18 was open to all schools including private schools affiliated to CBSE, CISC etc. and central government schools i.e. KVS and NVS. SVP intends to identify and award schools in rural and urban areas for excellence in the areas of water, toilet, hand washing with soap, operation and maintenance, and behavior change and capacity building. There is a specified methodology for selection of schools for the SVP awards. As per the SVP guidelines, awards are given to schools at district, state and national level. The SVP process has institutionalized Swachhata ranking system for excellence in water, 81 PAGA. Sanitation and hygiene in schools across the country. This aims to promote schools in achieving a Swachhata scale and standard for which a standard operating procedure (SOP) has also been released by Ministry of Education. The detailed SVP guidelines and the SOP are available at www.swachhvidyalaya.com. A section on COVID appropriate behavior has also been added to the awards template in 2021-22. COVID-19 appropriate behavior. A section on COVID appropriate behavior has also been added to the awards template in 2021-22. The COVID-19 appropriate behavior. COVID-2019 coronavirus disease 2019 pandemic led to disruption in the formal school education system. Schools remain closed and study from home or in open spaces, through devices, or TV, or radio, or even worksheets, and with the help of volunteers and peers are the new system followed. Once the severity of COVID-2019 recedes, the schools need to be reopened to restore formal education. To run the schools during pandemic and assuring safety of students, teaching and non-teaching staff in the schools, SOP guidelines issued by central government and state government needs to be followed. Vaccination to teaching and non-teaching staff is also the topmost priority to check spreading of virus in schools. SOP guidelines for health and safety protocols for reopening of schools and learning with physical social distancing issued by Ministry of Education. SOP guidelines issued by Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. SOP guidelines issued by Ministry of Home Affairs. SOP guidelines issued state and UTs. 5.10 Social audit. The physical and financial progress of the scheme is monitored through a robust MISEG, PRABANDH portal. It is also important to monitor the implementation of the scheme in the field independently. This will bring to light field level challenges which might not be visible otherwise and help in taking corrective measures. Social audit is one of the tools to monitor the progress of the scheme for effective implementation. Therefore, a technology-enabled social audit on well-defined KPIs by a group of young people such as undergraduate students, teacher trainees, NSS, NCC etc. will be conducted to make the implementation of the scheme transparent, accountable and constructive. Samagra Siksha portal under MO is accessible at web links. 5.10.1 Frequency. At least 20% of the schools of each category will be covered under social audit every year, such that social audit of all government schools will be conducted in a span of 5 years. Also, the social audit of KGBVs and residential schools shall be conducted each year. 5.10.2 Budget. The expenditure on conducting social audit will be met from the media, monitoring, management, evaluation and research (MMMER) funds of Samagra Shiksha scheme, up to 0.5% of the state annual budget allocation. The state's UTs shall transfer the amount to respective SAUs post-signing MOU between the two parties. Detailed guidelines for social audit of Samagra Shiksha have been issued to the state and 82 PAGA. UTs and are available at website of Ministry of Education. 5.10.3 Framework norms for interventions for civil and infrastructure facilities under Samagra Shiksha are appended as appendix. The requirement of infrastructure for SCERTs and diets may be referred in Chapter 6 on Teacher Education. The following construction norms and standards are available in public domain. BIS Code 8827/1978, reaffirmed in 2006. Recommendations for basic requirements of school buildings, NCERT specifications for integrated labs for secondary schools, NCERT prescribed subject-wise lab kits for senior secondary schools, National Disaster Management Guidelines on School Safety Policy issued by National Disaster Management Authority in February 2016, harmonized guidelines and space standards for barrier-free built environment for persons with disability and elderly persons, of the CPWD, February 2016, Environmental Management Framework for Secondary School in India, by Ministry of Education. Making Schools Safe and Secure, by Ministry of Education. Rainwater Harvesting and Conservation Manual -2019, CPWD, Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. CPWD Works Manual, Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. COVID-2019 SOP Guidelines for Health and Safety Protocols for Reopening of Schools and Learning with Physical Social Distancing, Ministry of Education. 83 PAGA. Chapter 6.